first. Mr. Stanley,
Thank you.
That's page
Bob Stanley,
7.
Parks and Recreation.
7 and 33.
My budget is pretty much very straightforward. I've tried to level fund it and pretty much level service all my line items. There just may one or two things in here that might be discussion points. But I also would like, when we're done with the operating budget, to maybe spend a couple minutes on my revolving accounts, because that has a real close financial impact to my regular operating budget. And there's some big things happening with the revolving account that will need to be addressed this year. So, but I'll start off with the operating budget. Where am I? Personal services, everything is pretty straightforward on here, mostly just contractual agreements. I think you'll see the last item down there is a 115% increase, but that was basically just a miscalculation from previous years where we underfunded it every year, and I was funding it through other sources. So now it's just up to where it should be.
Okay.
Our overtime, the next one after the personal services, we've pretty much kept that the same over the years, no increase there. Purchase of services, bus services, we level funded that. That's for all our buses that go on all our field trips and swim meets and what have you. Next one is grounds repair maintenance. We went up a little bit there for inflationary costs, $1,000. Half of that line item is pretty much covers all the geese control in town, which got consolidated into my department from other departments. So we do the schools, we do Endicott Estate, and I think we might do a little DPW too, cemeteries. So that's what that line item is. Next line item is program services. That's 20,000 of that is basically your Flag Day parade. And van services, those are our vans that we use in the summer, no increase there. Vehicle repair, we kept that at 5,000. That number goes way up or way down depending upon how our vehicles are doing. Moving into purchase of service, supplies and materials, ground supplies. We went an extra 5,000 in that. That's that line item is kind of the lifeblood of my parks department. That's how we do all the grounds maintenance and grounds repairs around town. And last year, we did ask for a $50,000 increase on that, and we didn't get it. We've done a lot of benchmarking with other towns, and the amounts you're probably supposed to spend per acre. We looked at the National Parks and Rec Association, and you know, we're supposed to be spending about $9,000 an acre, and we spend about 3 to 4. Needham spends about 18 per acre. So we're only asking for a slight increase there this year because we knew it's a difficult year financially, but in the future, I really need to address this line item. You know, not this year, but you know, I'm hoping things will be a little better off next year, and we can do this because that's the biggest complaint we get is we need to do more for our fields and more capital and more daily maintenance. So we're trying to live within that budget, and we'll do it one more year and, you know, keep the fields the best we can.
Bob, just quick,
Yep.
Does that include the schools too, the fields?
It includes a portion of the schools. Basically, you'll notice the difference between a school field and a parks field. Like Memorial Park's going to be in much better shape than, you know, say Green Lodge or Riverdale, because we can't do the same things that we do at a school field. There's legal things,
But
fertilization and what have you. And
But part of this line item does include work from the schools.
we cut
That's under your MOU, I think?
What's up?
Is that a part of the MOU between the
Yeah,
schools
we've
and?
got an MOU. Basically, what we do at school fields is we cut them 2 or 3 times a year, we try and, do the, infields over and what have you, but we don't have the manpower to do day-to-day maintenance that we do, but we keep them cut, is basically, and we do all the trash at the school fields.
Thank you.
Moving on, vehicle fuel, we keep that the same, and that fluctuates like everything else with the fuel prices, but we try and live within those means. Water utility, that goes to a number of things. That goes to concession stands, that we pay our own water bill at the Dolan Center, and we kept that level funded. And then just dues and memberships and a little bit of travel, that's just mileage on my staff when they need it. We typically don't even use that. And I believe that's the end of my operating budget. Any questions on that before?
Questions from the board? Seeing none, you want to talk to us about the
Yeah, I'm just going to get one.
revolving accounts?
Thank you. I just put together this quick sheet just to give a real quick snapshot of what our revolving accounts have been doing the last few years. Back in 2019, well, let me start off. We got 2 revolving funds, a pool revolving and a recreation revolving. Obviously, pool is all our expenses and revenue at the pool, and recreation covers all our recreation programs. In 2019, between the 2 of them, we took in $374,000. I didn't put 20 and 21 on here because it was COVID, and pretty much everything got decimated those couple of years. But we made a strong comeback when we came out of COVID. Revenues increased 10%, which was difficult because we were trying to bring all our programs back, and we thought it would be a slow comeback, but it came back right away. And then last year, we had a record year, and we took in, we went up 37% from the previous year, and we took in $566,000. If you look at where we are in fiscal '24, the next group down, from July 1st to March 6th, on our record year last year, we took it in $404,000. This year, from July 1st to that same date, we've taken in $500,000. We're at a 23% increase. Now, the reason why I'm discussing this now, you would think this is a great thing. But no, we're having some issues, and it's probably going to come to this board at some point in the next couple months. The way I run my revolving accounts is I look at it as like my own, not my own personal bank account, but the way you run your own budget. Don't spend more money than you take in, and you got to live within that means. So my means is always the balance in that budget. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. We have to live within the means, and John Annette gets upset when I call it this, but I call it an artificial spending limit. So in other words, our artificial, or our spending limit that was agreed on at town meeting last year was $225,000 for the pool. We took in, almost over $300,000 at the pool. And what you realize, like any business, when your revenue goes up, proportionately, all your expenses go up. It's just the way it is. I mean, minimum wages went up, all the salaries went up, inflation, everything is going up. But our spending limits are not going up proportionally to what we're taking in. Last year, we hit that. We had a $220,000 spending limit at the pool. We hit that in like February. And we had to curtail a lot of spending through the whole rest of the year, which wasn't fair because that funding should be going back into the pool programs. And this happened since I had my meeting with the liaisons. We were going over the budget, and once again, we increased that budget limit from $225,000 to $300,000 this year at the pool. I was uncomfortable even with the $300,000. We're at $280,000 right now. So now we're in the same position where we have got $200,000 left over from last year in revenue, plus the revenue we're taking in this year. And then we're faced with almost cutting programs at the pool because we're making too much money, because we've already hit our spending, which makes no sense. We can't go to the residents of the town and say, sorry, we're doing so well, we're taking in so much money, we're going to have to cut programs. And the other problem is, the revolving accounts can't be used as war chests to store up all this money. They're revolving. The money that comes in has to be going out. So that's the frustration I have. So right now, we're scrambling to figure out how we make it through the 4 months. I've met with Leon and John, and I think they've got a plan together to try and raise spending limits in the current year, as opposed to going to town meeting and saying, raise them next year. That's great for next year, but it's not going to help me get through what we're doing right now. So I think they're trying to find the legal ways to do it, which I assume will probably involve this board at some point. But I need to get the spending limits, at least we're looking at least 500,000 for the pool. And
Doesn't it require a town meeting vote?
I was going to say,
that's what we're looking at.
so we could do this in November.
Well, is
No,
there-
I need to.
I guess, is there a vehicle by which you could get it before town? meeting?
Leon might know, because I know you had an idea of,
The warrant's closed.
Yeah, but I'm wondering
but I think
whether
there was
there's
something in there.
an amendment to,
So we fully recognize, it's a great problem to have because it's showing the success of these programs.
Sure.
What it also, I think, reflects is a problem within the law in that town meeting only meets, twice a year. We try not to adjust these, the revolving spending limits above what you expect, but when we have growth rates like this, we should probably build in a little bit. I think the lesson learned is that we should build in a little bit more runway for Bob's department and others. So we do have a warrant article for the Springtown meeting to adjust revolving accounts, so we can fully address that. The question that we have out to legal is whether or not we can adjust FY '24 as well as FY '25 with that warrant article. I believe we can, and it'll be a matter of just whatever recommended motion comes from the Finance and Warrant Committee. So if we adjust the revolving limits and we don't specify that it's for FY '25 only, then that would be, I think, or if we specify that it's for FY '25 and FY '24, we can go into the system if we know that that's a possibility and allow Bob to overspend it, hoping that happens. And I think the reality is that we say that it's operational and necessary. But again, that depends on what the wish of this board, and then we hope the town meeting will go along with that. Otherwise, we could also defer some expenses that Bob has until after May if we wanted to play it a little bit safer.
Is this the only revolving account that the town has that is facing this issue, or are there others?
There are others where we've raised the limits in years past. I don't believe that there are any right now that are having this problem where we're taking in so much revenue, but that we also have corresponding costs to go along with it. Because as Bob explained, the reason why our revenues are coming in so high is because so many people are signing up for these programs and taking these programs. And so that necessitates us bringing on more staff and spending more money for various things.
Right.
And that's why the spending limit is a problem. It's not if it were truly we were just raising the prices on everything and bringing in more revenue and it wasn't necessarily driving more costs, we wouldn't have a problem because it's an expenditure limit. But that's why we are running into a problem, because in order to meet this demand, we need to hire more people or spend more on various.
So that's something that this board will see when we start when we schedule our
Warrant review.
hearings
Yep.
on the warrant articles.
Yep.
it seems though like you're running a surplus to some extent. In other words, this is rolling forward.
I'm not losing the money,
Right.
but keep in mind, I might be wrong, but when, like, say, last year, when fiscal year ended, I don't know the exact amount, 150, somewhere around that, because I couldn't spend it. And then once July 1st hit, I started purchasing all these things that I needed, say, at the pool, a handicap ramp that was like $7,000, things like that we had to go without. We purchased them. So then my spending was well above. And the other thing I'll point out, that this obviously, it doesn't cost the town by increasing the limit, because we're not asking for any money, but it's actually saving the town money, because there are things like, 3 months ago, our boiler went at the pool. $60,000, $50,000 to fix it. I said, you know what? I can pay for that out of the pool revolving, and we don't have to go to the town, for an emergency transfer or anything. So we did that. But the problem is, when I said yes to that 50,000, was we increased the spending limit from 225 to 300 because of the problem. Well, then I've just ate that whole increase that we went. So I'm back in the exact same position that I was in last year.
Kevin?
Here's what I'm getting at, sort of following up on that sort of line of thought. In some ways, it'll sound facetious, but in some ways, people don't care much about what the spending limits are in the past, because they don't impact the levy. It's like, oh, well, they're raising it over here, it's got nothing to do with the tax rate, so, we don't care. I'm saying this is an opportunity, which you've already sort of done, to flip it, so that not only does it not adversely affect the levy, but there's an opportunity here to redraw the lines, so that you could pay for something in Parks and Rec that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do, like further improvements in the field or something, and up the limit, but knock down, knock 50 grand off the levy.
And that's what we're doing. You'll notice when I do my capital, I always come in what I call with like a pool bundle, which is like 12 or 18,000, all these things we need at the pool. I'm not in that position. I don't have to do that anymore, because now I can do it. And you know what? I don't have to wait a year and go through capital. I can do it real time from my revolving account, but I just need the freedom to access the funds that we have. And one other thing I want to point out is 2 years ago, after COVID, we had shut down the pool for a year. We had to bring our pool director back. She was making half the pay of what a normal pool director was making at like $39,000. She was going to stay where she was. We decided to increase her salary by $30,000 up to $70,000. But we put in, not incentives, but changed the job description around, said, we need to bring in revenue. We need to increase the participation in our programs at the pool. And that has paid back tenfold, because the revenue has pretty much doubled since we did that. And she is doing a great job down the pool. And it's just tough for me to tell her, she comes to us every day, oh, we're making so much more, we're doing this, and we're doing this program. She keeps adding more programs. And then I have to kind of put the brakes on and say, you're making too much money. No, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, over the next 6 weeks, we're all going to be looking for every nickel we can get off the levy.
Yeah.
This strikes me as a great opportunity.
I think it's a great problem to have.
It's not going to solve the problem, but it's going to, chip away at it.
But I need help to get through the rest of this year is what I'm saying.
I'll support just about anything that'll get us there. It's a
As long as it doesn't hit the levy.
It's a win-win, yeah, off the levy.
So you're working with Leon and John to come?
Yeah. And like I said, it just hit crucial level in the past, like 8 to 10 days. And so I'm still in the beginning stages of understanding what we're trying to do to fix it. But I have been told, keep the status quo, don't start cutting things, don't start shutting down
I
programs.
think that's wise, yeah, because
So-
even if it's part of the warrant, it's recommended, it's voted, it wouldn't come into effect until July 1st, right, correct?
Well, in theory, that is the way we've done it in prior years. That's why we have the question out to legal counsel to see if we can impact FY '24.
So something in the wording of the levy?
Yeah,
If it's-
exactly.
if it's
Okay,
still
it's part of
in
the
scope.
warrant.
Yeah, we don't believe that there's any restrictions on that. We just need to verify, because that's not the way we've done it in the past.
Okay. Sounds good. Anyone else? Oh, Mike.
This may be just thoughts on how we tell the story here, but first of all, I mean, if to the extent this reflects increased utilization, it suggests you're doing something right, so thank you for that. But if by starting with the lead of the revenue, it starts to sound like, oh my God, we're collecting all this money, we have to find a way to spend it. I mean, that's how, I know that's not what your intent is, but we start by starting the story saying we have all this new revenue, because your revenue and expenses, that's not a one-to-one correlation. And maybe, the better starting point is just about those expenses and how they've increased. So if your revenue's gone up 40%, maybe your expenses are 20%. I'm also hearing maybe you want to say, we want to include some things which might be considered operating capital as well, and kind of make it that story. So that's all.
I think I follow it. Just stands out a statement or a question.
No, it was a suggestion about the way, and a thought about the way we want to tell the story, particularly when it goes to town meeting.
If I could help
Mike-
out,
Mike,
I think Mike's saying is just focus on, we're getting more participation.
Right.
And that's our goal.
And more participation is driving up expenses. You need more lifeguards, you need more whatever, to support the increased participation and leave out the increased revenue, because that's really what you're talking about. You're running a successful program, your participation has gone through the roof, but more kids
Yeah.
to handle means more expense, and you need your budget increase for that.
Yeah.
Mike,
I don't think you should leave it out, but I think it's what do you lead with? You start there, right, with our expenses are up. And by the way, we can more than pay for it with our
Yeah,
our increased revenue.
that makes sense. Anyone else?
And in addition to the boiler, just so Bob has had conversations with Matt Hafner in the audience about just other things that they can do at the pool. It's exactly like you said, like this operating capital idea of covering some things that would otherwise go through CEC or be capital items that we can absorb within, because there is going to be some, like you said, there's going to be a small delta between those actual operating increases and the revenue increases, and then what we can maybe add in as far as making some maintenance improvements.
Michelle?
Are there any limitations or rules about what that money is spent on?
It has to be directly related to the pool.
In other words, I can't take money from the pool revolving and work on my fields. Like I said earlier, I need money for my fields. I would love to be able to take 100,000 and move it over there, but I can't do that. Now, on the recreation revolving fund, I can do that because we take in money from the fields by field rentals and what have you. But the pool is the one that's having the big participation level jumps and revenue jumps. The recreation side is doing well, but not the same, not growing at the same rate as the pool
So
is.
you wouldn't be seeking an increase in that one at this time? Right now, it's focused on the pool.
I think just so we don't get stuck in this position again, I mean, the numbers that I heard from the finance director was maybe go 500,000 each one. I can't see my recreation getting even close to that, but I never would have foresaw this 2 or 3 years ago, the pool getting to the numbers
Right.
that it is. It's a good thing to have. I don't know if any of you heard it, but last month, the first day of our spring registration, WBZ came up there with
Yeah.
cameras,
Yeah.
and they were up there because they had heard it, the revenue jump. We took in $170,000 in 3 minutes on February 1st, and it's pretty amazing. The demand is there.
Mike?
So do we have to phrase it in terms of a spending limit, or can it be just simply in terms of you can't spend more than you take in terms of
So the
revenue?
law is that you have to set a spending
So
limit.
okay.
It's a dollar amount.
Bummer.
And I'm on that page, because in my head, I'm always going,
But we can't.
I have this much money, this is what I can spend. And then I get reminded, no, that's not what you can spend. You can spend way down here, and, so. But we are trying to live within our means, and other years it's been tough. This year, it's been good except for the limit.
If we just back up to what we were talking about this morning, about the options to get us out of this fiscal dilemma that we find ourselves in. One of them was the exploration of fees, in a number of different areas. We've got it all set up, it's done, it's here.
Okay.
All you need to do is just to, raise the spending limit, and you can achieve the same impact and solve your problem at the same time.
Right, and I want to just say something on that about fees, because there has been a project where they're looking at all the fees and they're looking at my fees, and there has been some recommendations from me to, because we've got so much demand, that we should be increasing our fees. I'm going to need a lot more convincing on that, because we're taking in enough money to pay for all our programs. And we're not like a private organization where our goal is revenue. We need to keep our programs affordable. And that's what we're doing. We run all-day camps, that we take in kids for 5 days a week for, $220 a week. And there's a population in Dedham that needs that. And granted, I know a lot of people want to use it, and we could raise those rates. But if we're paying for the cost of that program plus 5 or 10% administrative fees, we're doing our job. I'm not a big fan of raising fees just because we can we can, just because the demand is there. I don't think, municipal recreation department, that should not be their goal. Their goal should be participation and staying afloat.
Because raising the fees does not do anything to the levy. It's just would stay within this compartment,
Yeah.
this draw, and that's the only thing that could be spent on. It can't be then used to offset certain things in your budget, gasoline, whatever. This is where it's done. So, because if it isn't, to maintain the programs, we might have to cut into the levy at some point. So this is a self-sufficient programs, and it makes sense to me.
I think, yeah, just to go back to that, I think we just want to make sure that, and Bob does a good job of this and his staff, of making sure that the fees are covering their costs, their
Yes.
operating costs and things like that. And they have revolving accounts, which is slightly different than many of the other departments where the fees just go straight into the general fund.
Right.
And Bob does adjust his from time to time. We have certain fees in town that haven't been adjusted since like 1992. So I think those are the real opportunity centers, whereas Bob's not so much, especially because of the revolving fund. But we are doing it comprehensively, so we're certainly not picking on Bob. We're just checking everything.
Liz?
Bob, to what do you attribute the growth in the demand?
Well, most of the growth is on the pool side, and as I mentioned, well, I think it's the comeback from COVID. Just a lot more people want to get back into programs. But I also want to give credit what credit's due. It's my pool director who's made it a point to offer more programs down there, take more advantage of it. We're one of the few municipalities that has a pool. It's like 1 out of 10 has a municipal pool. And that's because it's tough. You got to get the right people in there, and it just can't be a money drain on the town. And that's what we're trying to get to, that it's not a money drain. There are big expenses that the town does pick up. They pay the pool director's salary, they pay the utility bill, and those are big expenses. So when it comes to other expenses, you're not paying for chlorine, you're not paying for CO2, you're not paying for, we pay for our own janitor down the pool. It doesn't come out of facilities, it comes right out of a revolver, doesn't come out of our operating costs. All that is coming out of the money, that we take in. But yeah, back to your program, your question, it's the way the pool's been run the last 4 or 5 years. And the feedback we get on the programs is amazing too, and that's what's driving the revenue. People love our swim and gym program during the summer. And you go on Facebook and you just read the positive comments, and what happens is people read it, and then more people want to get in. And then it turns into this big, not a nightmare situation, but on February 1st, when we open that up, every single parent is sitting there, at 10:01, trying to get into our program. And so it's that. If you offer a good program, you're going to get participation rates that go higher, revenue's going to go higher, demand goes up, we can increase the prices, a bit, without gouging people. But, and the other thing we've tried to do with our programs is we've tried to gear them towards the demand. In other words, most of our swim programs ran like 4 to 15, but the major demand was between 4 and 7 years old. So we geared our programs to take in more towards that age group. And that was just a tweaking. And when we did that, it almost doubled our participation in the program because we geared it for, the group that was demanding it the most. So
Anything else, Mike?
If we wonder any consideration, so if our revenue is going up that much and we have this surplus, and you mentioned the cost of the summer camps, economically diverse town is part of the alternative response to offer more financial support or scholarships or other funding for people who might struggle with it?
And we do that, but it's also something that I would like to look into more because I feel uncomfortable being the person that decides who gets financial support and who doesn't. There was a time when we would have the youth commission do it. If I got a recommendation from the youth commission, they said they need 50% off or they need free, we would do that. But it's just difficult for me.
You need a
I'm not in
system
that
to do it.
business to make those decisions, or what is, so, yes, there are times where we know of families that are in difficult situations, and we do what we can to help them out. And that's been that way for 10 or 15 years, but I would like a more formal process to identify those people. Whether it should be on us, I don't know. But
I know the school department, when they had the athletic fee, had a system, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was very structured about what youngsters and what families would be granted some relief, and it was kept extremely confidential. It was amazing how that whole thing works, so that,
yeah, we do it, but it's not something we like to advertise, because then we advertise it, then we're going to get all kinds of requests coming in, and I know a lot of them may not be valid. And then that's when we're in a real tough situation. How do you pick and choose? So,
that's something down the road, I think. We can work it out. Oh, Michelle.
Just from experience doing this in my prior role, even if you widely advertise it, I don't think we got anyone. Because
Really?
people don't, that don't deserve it.
they don't like to ask for
Yeah,
it.
people don't like to ask. Even people that probably could use it are resistant to ask, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't see that. It is a big job, though. It's a big job to decide what your system is and to make those decisions and to collect all the information. But the fear of like people that don't really need it applying is really not something to worry about.
See that with free and reduced lunch,
Yeah,
talking to the school system. People who deserve it don't apply.
don't apply, yeah. That's more of a problem, is people feeling comfortable even asking for help, yeah.
But yeah, we would be in a good position to help out. And one thing I also want to point out, we're going through a great time now. I don't know what it's going to be like in 2 years. Maybe 2 years from now, I don't think might not be able to pay for capital expenses like a $50,000 or $60,000 boiler, but for now, I can. I just don't want that to be the rule, that going forward, all capital expenses or something.
No.
Yeah, but when I can help out, I will.
Anyone else have any questions for Bob at this point? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. If I may?
Yes.
Hi, Mary Gilbert, Precinct 4, 206 Madison Street. Good presentation. Last year, I was impressed with how you broke down the cost of the fields and what we were doing. So I have a question on the revolving funds, and I think I noticed when I read the Warrant article, I thought it was Article 14 that seemed to be impacting or questioning about the revolving funds. So that's what wanted to ask Leon. The revolving funds, you're taking the money in, is it a cumulative account?
Yes.
So it's still,
Still there.
Yeah.
Not losing it.
so, and again, I understand you can only spend it on what the revolving account. So part of this was, you're conservative, which I appreciate. You're not going to go, let me just go wild because I have extra money. So I think that's a smart idea. I don't understand why some of the fees, I think I had talked to you a couple of years ago about this was for the seniors. There was like an $8,000 limit in the revolving fund they had. And I thought, that doesn't seem like it's a lot. And I had mentioned that to Leon, and it just artificially suppresses the ability for people to pay for things. So I think town meeting will understand that and appreciate that, but town meeting has to approve this change in the
That's correct.
in the top, okay. Is there a reason why, you can't unilaterally change, or are thinking about it, some of these other revolving funds that seem they might have artificially low?
So that's an exercise that the finance director goes through every year and does bring forward ones where we're getting close to raise them up, but it does take town meeting action, so we try to do it in sort of a judicious way, not just raise them all, but have some rationale behind it. So, yeah, we're certainly doing that on a unilateral basis. We don't always wait for the department head to come in and say,
Right.
oh, we got this problem. We try to prevent this problem.
So is there a place you can look to see what the balances are in those revolving funds? Like if I could say, the seniors have X amount of dollars, can we raise that fee up another?
We track it within our system. I'm not sure if there's a place that is publicly accessible, but I can certainly get that information.
Could you, if that would be great.
Yeah.
And then last question, are there programs you're developing in the pool for seniors? It's nice for the 5 and 7-year-olds, but I might want to fling myself in the water
Yeah,
myself.
this is always putting together, just off the top of my head, every day at 1 o'clock, she's got the water aerobics in there for seniors.
Good, yeah.
I know she's got more senior programs, I can't rattle them off.
No, that's important. I'm glad we're thinking about that.
We've got a time period of the pool where we really cannot find a use for it, between like 1 and 2:30 in the afternoon. That's like an open time that we need to bring in programs, which
I've always said that would be a great time to bring in seniors.
Yes.
We're booked the whole rest of the day and night, but that's that time period that we're trying to fill, and that'd be perfect. And that's why she's got the water aerobics in there.
Right.
But we're always looking for new ideas and people that can come in and maybe run a program.
Right.
We've
right.
got the facility, and we're not trying to make a profit off it, we just have to, cover the
So
expenses.
that's something we might be able to connect with the director of the
Or-
senior center.
Talk-
That'd be
talk to
great,
Karen,
okay.
And I can get involved also because.
Great.
She's very good at.
She is, yeah.
Implementing new ideas and new programs, and that's why we're generating the participation and revenue that we have today.
I think I want to learn how to swim better than a rock. So if you could come up with a program, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Michael Lowe?
Thanks, Bob. I just want to quickly mention, piggyback on Mary's last question, statement. For those who are interested, Parks and Rec does run a pickleball program for seniors. And believe me, it's fun. I do it. So just as a side note, if you don't want to swim, want to learn to play pickleball, yeah.
And as a side note to that, pickleball, that's probably something I'll be coming to this board to in the future, because we're doing pickleball, but the pickleball we're running right now, we're running out of High Park. It's time pickleball comes to Dedham, and we need to find a way to do that, because, seniors will have it, but, the people that are participating in our program that we're running on Saturday mornings is all ages now.
I'm doing that as well, and it's a lot of fun, and kudos to Debbie
Debbie's
for
spearheading
doing that, because she's been a great asset.
Yeah, but I would love to get something in Dedham.
All set. All right, Bob, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm going to do,
You want to do engineering next?
no, we're going to do DPW,
That's fine.
okay?
You got me at the end of the day.
That's what I was thinking. You got to come in at the end anyway, so. Good afternoon, Mr. Flanagan.
Good afternoon, Joe Flanagan.
Parks and, Public Works is 2223 on our book here, breakdown. Everybody all set?
Yeah.
All right, Joe, go ahead.
Thank you for having me this afternoon. The budget's for us pretty much self-explanatory. It's what we're doing every year. Kind of move some of the numbers around within our own budget. We took some money out of materials disposal, put those around. Vehicle maintenance, if you want me to go line item by line item, or how would you go? So vehicle maintenance, repair.
I'll just throwing up equipment rental, that's an increase?
Yeah, we increased that. We're looking at doing a couple of jobs here, so we've rented an excavator. So that's why we did that line.
And the purpose would be to,
The purpose is to do work that within the towns, like on our drain lines, stormwater repairs, sewer repairs.
so it'd save us some money from going out?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, that's,
So,
so there's an exchange there. We're going to pay the rental, but it's less than
Correct.
paying an outside contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
we actually just purchased the Komatsu, the 78, so that will help us defer this cost in the future.
Okay.
On the grounds and tree maintenance repair, so this is for all our cleanups and some of the cemetery maintenance that we do for landscaping, improving trees, improving our tree canopies. But, we've increased. One of the other items that we had was our, the big one was materials disposal. You'll see we took money away out of that because we charged some of that to our stormwater fee line. We took some money out of that. to be able to get that.
What account was that, Joe?
The materials disposal, we're down minus 27%.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So, because I'm able to charge some of that money to the stormwater fee, so the MS4 account, so.
Michael P.?
So, and I don't know if it's the same with the permit services, but I mean, if you look at your total budget, it's flat versus original 24, but it sounds like there's a couple of just reclasses into other departments.
Yes.
The opposite of what was going on with Jeremy's budget. If you adjusted those out, what is your total budget? Is it going up? Is it going up by how much? I don't know if anybody looked at this or who was.
I didn't look at it that way, but it would increase because we're doing more work, so.
I think it would be, if you took out the reclassifications, which is really not a decrease in expenses, I think it would be helpful to
The personnel?
understand. No, of these materials.
Outside the person, no, I know what you're saying, yeah. It would be right around the same. It's not gonna be, it'll be a minor increase.
Okay.
Just doing that in my head right now, I'm thinking,
Okay.
I know exactly what you're saying. I can get that to you.
Is it so- So is all 160,000 the permit and the material, is that just reclassing?
Yes.
Okay, so if I added 160,000 to the budget, I could figure out what the, okay. All right. I think I can do that.
On that? On that same note, and I don't know if this is more for Leon, somebody else, I forget who, somebody else before us, there was something else that was moved to stormwater, I think, today.
Leaf collection.
Yeah, so is there, like, what's the reasoning or the benefit is, or is there a reason why there's multiple things moving to stormwater, and does that save us money somehow, or it's just more appropriate that that's where it is?
It's out of the fee, I think.
So I guess the answer to that is twofold. I think it's one, that does save us money off of the operating budget to put it into, but it's also appropriate in that we are advancing our compliance with the MS4 permit by picking up leaves. I mean, many communities have done that for a number of years. They've charged their leaf collection to their stormwater because it does aid in the
When the
meeting of
leaves-
those goals.
Yeah, when they biodegrade, they're going into your stormwater collection system. They're cleaning, then they're gonna eventually end up in the wetlands. So they clog the catch basins, they get into the pipes there, then they're going into the outfalls. We deal with a number of issues where we have to go into these areas, we clean out the outfalls where the retention, stormwater discharges to. So we're picking that, and a lot of that time, that is muck, it's from the leaves.
So is that impacting stormwater fees or anything? Like, I guess I'm trying to figure out, is it just moving an expense from one place to another, or is it actually saving money overall?
It'll be paid through the stormwater fee.
Yeah.
So it's moving it from one place to the other. It's not going to, but it's not going to, it's not an inappropriate cost.
Yeah.
It's just a,
Thanks.
Kevin?
Are there any other, besides leaf collection in this, are there any other areas that are being charged off to the stormwater fee?
outside, just the compliance with the MS4 permit. So that's the annual engineering that we use.
The normal, the stuff
Yeah,
we had
exactly.
been told
Yep.
about. These are the only two.
These are
sort
the
of
only
active.
two, yep.
And are these sustainable in the long run? Or are
Yes.
these just temporary?
These are,
shift?
these plan to be there in the long run.
Okay, thank you.
Michael P.?
I'm just so, tell me if I'm right or not, but I'm just trying to help the board here understand. So if I took out the three expenses I see going down, which I'm assuming are reclassifications, the 110, the 60,000, and the 7,000 in ground supplies, I adjusted them out of 2024. Now the budget's increasing 146,000 or 3.6%. If my logic is right, I don't want to create something that's not right, but I'm just trying to, right now, it's not apples and apples. And we're trying to figure out what's really going on with the budget.
Because you're not cutting, you're not necessarily, you did just move those two
Right,
different
within
areas. So
ours.
yeah, so that's,
We moved it within ourselves, within.
But all three things that he listed really are going somewhere else. It's
Yes.
not like they're kind of coming out.
just, yeah, between his lines, so.
They moved within four.
That's right.
Within
Yeah,
location
they
420.
stayed inside
Oh,
420
okay.
account.
Okay.
Right,
So it's
okay,
even-
all
The only
right.
thing that came out was the.
And rubbish and recycling is a different department, so that one doesn't count
Right.
with the leaf
Okay,
collection.
okay.
Yeah, when I said I moved them within, that's what I meant.
Okay, all
So
right.
it's still
When you
within
said
your-
engineering, I thought you were going to 410. I
No.
thought you were moving it to
No.
410. Oh, okay.
It would all stay within the same.
Oh, okay, then it is right the way it's stated.
I think she said, I think one of them.
One of them.
Stormwater, not all.
Stormwater comes into,
So 60,000.
60,000, okay, all right, okay.
Michael?
Yeah, so back to the equipment rental line, I think what I heard you say was that $75,000 saved us from going to outside services?
Yes.
Where does that savings show up? What line? So if we're spending $75,000 for equipment rental in order to reduce our costs to outside services, what line is that showing up as a savings?
That will show up, that's because we're going to rent that equipment, so we're not going to spend it next year. We're not going to have to spend that, that's what I'm saying. So we have that money in there, because we've used this before. Well, the equipment rental has been higher. So now we brought the machine in, and we're going to be renting this equipment, that's why we raised that for an actual cost. Show an
Okay.
actual cost, so it's not really, so I'm not following what you're saying. It's,
So the equipment rental went up $75,000, right? The second line.
You can pull it from a different line, though,
yeah.
but net it out.
Right. So the actual in 2022 was 80, in 2023, excuse me, was 101. So we have another machine coming in for a job that we're gonna be doing for the next 2 months. That's, excuse me, in the summer. That's why we increased it. But we used to pay for it, this is more of a, we used to pay for it in our own line items and just not, and this is more of an actual reading of it. We're trying to get, on the specific line item to be more accurate with with where we're going with it, because if we were to pay that out of materials disposal, like if we were gonna screen material, we would pay for it out of materials disposal and not actual equipment rental. So we would charge it to that. So we're just trying to get a more accurate accounting of where we're doing with the equipment.
So that is reflected in the reduction in materials disposal. So materials disposal is going down because we're
Correct.
renting equipment. Okay.
Yes.
That was the question.
Well, we would charge it to material disposal before, but it's really, we're renting a machine, so it's not, it's an equipment rental. We shouldn't be doing it for that.
That answers the question. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's just trying to figure out where these
Yeah.
things are within the lines and to address them.
I know, it's difficult.
It is. Any other certainly.
Mary Gilbert, Precinct 4, Town Meeting Member. So a question on the stormwater fee is a recent fee, I understand that. Is that a static fee, or is that potentially going to increase?
It could increase, or it could decrease, depending on our, basically our ability to pay for the programs that we need to fund through that.
So with the leaf collection, is that potentially going to impact it and make that go up? Because you've moved, if I understood what you said earlier, that was in the trash budget, the trash?
Yep.
So that was part of the levy cost. That will decrease the levy cost. But we're still paying for it, but we'll get charged possibly with the fee if it goes up.
Yes, I mean, I don't think it'll increase it this coming year, but you're absolutely right. It is being funded via the fee.
Right, okay, so,
It's not free. Yeah.
no, I wouldn't think it was free, but I just think that, it was sort of a hard hit to some people, like, now we got a fee, in addition to. And I'm sure they'll be happy they're not losing the leaf collection. It's just that, you're just kind of changing the pocket, so to speak, or you're trying to pull the money out of and funding it. So that should help the levy, basically. You're releasing, what did you say, $3 million? From,
No. The leaf collection is 22 weeks at about 12,000 per week, so it's just under 268,000.
so, I'm sorry, I did hear a figure earlier where you said $3 million potentially could be.
That would be if we went to pay-as-you-throw completely
Okay.
for the trash program and created a fee for that.
Okay.
And then you would pull that all out of the levy.
Right, sorry, thank you. I did get that confused. So that's concerning the trash only, not the leaf.
Rubbish and recycling, yes.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions on Joe's along those lines before we go to snow and ice? Any questions on snow and ice? It's pretty clear cut.
Where's the snow and ice?
It's right here.
That's a good question.
Yeah, where's the sign? Exactly.
You caught me on that one, Leah. And then rubbish and recycling. Leon presented us before, so.
Okay, so I'll wrap it up. I know, you had some questions about the, when we met with the liaisons. So the tonnage is about 6,000 a year, and we're at, right about 77, 78 a ton at Wheelabrator. That's separate than, that's out to what it is to dispose of it. That's not including the collection. But that was a question that you asked me when we met. So we're about 6,000 ton plus or minus, which is down from a few years ago when we were when we were closer to 8.
Close to 80, you said?
No, close to 8,000 ton a year.
Oh, yeah, 8,000.
Trash.
So we're down on the.
We're down,
trash.
yeah, so we're down, so we're about 6,000 ton right now.
What's the market for recycling? Has that gone back any, or?
It's come back a small amount,
Yeah.
not much. Negligible as far as we're concerned. So we still have the recyclables are getting more confusing because now the material recovery facilities, they're calling them MRFs. They don't want to take all of the cardboard, they don't want to take all of the plastics. So they're trying to, so different places will, different facilities, there's not a market for a specific plastic, they don't want it at that time. So it's, that affects, they call that the commodity rate, and that affects the commodity rate.
Oh, Sarah.
So Liz and I were liaisons, and Cindy too. Cindy, you were a liaison with us. I couldn't remember if you were in engineering only, but anyway. One thing that came out of our meeting, and I think Leon already mentioned this, but I wanted to highlight it again anyway, is that there's a 12% increase in our rubbish and recycling contractually. But when we go to renegotiate, because that contract is up, you expect it to increase from, what is it now, 80-something a ton to like 120-something a ton?
Right now, the neighborhood is going, that's for your disposal. So that's not the curbside collection, that's where they bring the trash to, where they dump it. And that, right now, there's few of our surrounding towns are getting about $120 to $130 a ton.
Is that what used to be referred to as the tipping fee?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's going to be a significant increase.
Yeah, so I was mistaken earlier, so it's, I think Joe said it's 77.
77, 78.
So I thought it was in the
Wheelabrator.
mid-80s for some
Yeah.
reason, but it's 77 now, so it's actually a worse increase because, yeah, we're looking at in that 120 to 130 range when we renegotiate that.
And remind us the year again? That's
2027, is that what it is?
Yes,
27.
27.
27's up? So FY '27, we would have to look to
Correct.
either raise and appropriate levy considerable additional funds.
So we're hoping to start that committee up next year with there's 27 communities that are in that right now that bring their trash to Wheelabrator. So we're going to, well, we call it, it's a different company now, it's A&R. So hopeful, so we'll start negotiating that next year.
More to come on rubbish and recycling. Michael?
Joe, remind us, I remember a couple of years ago, we were paying some pretty exorbitant fees because of people disposing of trash and recyclables incorrectly.
Contamination, correct.
Contamination,
Recycling.
are we
That's
still-
been way down, that's gone down.
That,
The
okay.
96-gallon trash carts has helped us eliminate that recycling contamination fee.
That's good to know. Yeah, I asked because I probably need more to do in my day, but I've driven by on streets and I've seen some containers filled up with some stuff that I know doesn't belong in there.
Right.
But I just.
A lot of times the drivers, if they see it, they'll get out and they'll remove it.
Okay.
So most people just don't realize, and then they do. So we're pretty fortunate that,
It's stamped right on the barrels now.
excuse me?
It's stamped right on the
Right.
barrels. Yeah. Oh, well.
Thank you.
Michael P.?
Good question. If we go to, I forget what we'll call it, for privatization or whatever.
Pay as you throw.
But pay as you throw. If we go to that program, Are we still going to be involved, in working with whatever company is operating that to make sure?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So I've done to a few seminars on this, and so we would have the company, you would bid this out next year and say, all right, we're gonna go to a pay-as-you-throw. So
Yeah.
you'd require the company to have cameras in their trucks. Similar, most of your automated trash trucks have it now. You could still use the cart, or you'd have a different cart that would, so we would sell the bags, you'd put the bags in your trash cart, they would empty it, and you pay as you throw for that. And so the town would contract with the homeowner.
But where I was going with, you were just talking about maybe if the town is still paying for it, is there another site we can go to dump it, because that would be less expensive than the huge increase where, so I'm thinking.
So that's something we'll go out to bid. That's a competitively bid thing as well.
Okay, all right, because we want to still have some say into protecting the residents from their fees inappropriately going way up because it's just not being managed as cost effectively as possible, I think is what I'm getting at.
So the facilities around here is Wheeler Breda, the transfer station in Braintree is one, you have a transfer station in Roxbury and in Charlestown. So you could, that's really where you'd end up going, to one of those places. If you didn't go to Wheeler Breda.
And the bids come from those three facilities, right?
Correct.
In terms of what,
So you'd have, we're in the 2027, we're in the Wheeler Breda contract, so seems reasonable right now, just saying that, you would go with Wheeler Breda, because they're there, but Casella's very competitive, they may want it, or Cavanta.
but that's something that's going to have to be dealt with down the road and as things develop, but it's something that I think, I've asked Leon in some discussions, when we get that list of the, where we sit in Norfolk County with the tax, asked if they can put together, and again, I hate to put work on our staff because they do so much, but of those other towns, what is their cost? What do their residents pay for rubbish and recycling? So we have a picture of that too. Was it Needham? You got to take it to a transfer station.
We already did pull together some of that.
Oh, okay. Ooh,
and
you guys are quick.
I say we, Brady.
Yes, I know. I was going to say that, but I didn't.
But, and we've, so we have some of that data available. We can share that with you. We started this last year when we talked about this, so.
Yeah.
And it does vary by town based on, how much they're trying to recoup, whether it's 100% to the cost or whether they're still subsidizing it a little bit. And I think, Mike's point, I think we will still end up managing the contract because that is by far the most popular way. There's one other community that I'm aware of in Norfolk County that is no longer involved in trash, and that's Foxborough. And they basically license the trash companies through their health department, and then they let the residents go out and shop in the free market for their trash services.
Really? I know that's true of just in Norton, Mass. They do
Okay,
the same
so-
thing.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware of that, but I do know that the former Dedham Town Administrator who was in Foxborough was very proud of that because he said it took a lot off from his plate to do it that way. But,
It took off the levy, took a lot off the levy.
took it off the levy
Sure.
too, yeah.
Get rid of trash, that's all your worries.
3
You
million.
don't deal with it.
Yep.
Oh, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I understand a lot of the stuff that we put in our recycling bin doesn't actually get recycled. Can you give a sense of how much of that stuff we collect as recycling ends up being?
Right now, we're saying it's about 16%, 17%. We haven't done an audit in a while. We don't want to do an audit.
Say 15 to 20%, you're saying does not get recycled?
Contamination.
Oh, but even,
So what happens is that recycling truck goes to a facility.
Yeah.
It's dumped on the floor, and it's sorted,
got it,
and 20% of, and probably between 16 and 20% of that is, they call it contamination. Then you pay a fee on top of that.
That's a different.
yeah, I did say, I wished I'd asked that question as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the firms that we take our recycling to takes everything, it sounds like, but my understanding is that nationally, maybe locally, only a proportion of the stuff that we actually put in our recycling bins gets recycled because there's just not enough of a market for it.
Correct.
But it doesn't sound like that matters to us because they take everything, but I'm curious, do we know what percentage actually gets recycled?
I don't know,
Yeah.
no. I would say it's right around that 15% number.
Okay.
That's what, I haven't looked at that in a couple of years.
Okay.
We're talking about that previously,
All right, thanks, yeah.
but I haven't looked.
But we don't have to pay for just, yeah, so, but the recycling company takes everything that we give that's not contaminated?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
But that probably impacts that commodity price there. you talked about
Exactly,
earlier.
right.
If it falls so much, it's not even worth selling.
But we're not paying the $80 a ton to dispose of it.
Yeah, especially because now you've had landfills in Massachusetts that have closed. So a lot of our trash goes on rail or truck outside of the state. And so there's a big fee with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good presentation, and we have a lot to plan for.
Any questions, give me a holler. Thanks. Thank you.
Next up, facilities. Matt? Page 27.
Page 26.
Did I miss? Oh, sure, 26 and 27, thank you.
How's it going?
Good afternoon.
I haven't heard the beginning of anybody's, I heard Joe a little bit, just gotta give you a preface. My budget's gone up quite a bit. Some of it's because we've taken things out of capital and put them in the budget. Some of the lines have gone up just because they were underfunded or because they were underfunded, the costs have gone up on them, on those lines, so. Not sure how you'd like me to go through this.
I think might be the best way is, as an example, when you have percentage increases that are fairly hefty, like 23% on carpentry, repair, maintenance, et cetera. What's behind that increase?
Sure. Cost of material, basically, in that we have more capacity of staff than we'd have money to repair items with. So we're trying to appropriately build budgets that we can better serve the community and the buildings. And right now, we don't have enough money to attack a lot of projects because of how the funding is. So I would have liked more, but this is going to go incrementally, hopefully up over the years to better suit the community and the department's ability to maintain the buildings.
Would that be the same explanation, and because we see HVAC repair and maintenance, 51%, is that similar?
That's all, yes, it's similar because costs are gone way up. We also have the next door, which the new public safety building has a massive amount of HVAC equipment in there, so that requires additional funds to maintain that. We're also having a very difficult time staffing the HVAC position. We've had an open position for months and months and months, so this gives us the ability to use contracted services as well as we've been trying to do limited in-house, but that gives us the ability to operate the town buildings.
Another one on this I look at is technical services other. It's a 73% increase. Would that be that you have to go out and get people to come in, or?
This is the, where I had asked for my capital, which the house doctor contract.
Yes,
which-
okay.
So this is the solution we're going with, hopefully, to help afford to get a contract with the architectural firm to do a house doctor. It's toned back as far as the request of the dollars, but we're gonna go out to bid and have a architectural firm effectively with this funding.
Can you explain maybe the reason for why you want to do that?
Because right now, every time we, here's a perfect example. Thursday, we had a bid opening. We had a design firm that used best guess estimates of costs of what was going to, this is not a full explanation, but our DPW, they're using green community funds to do the HVAC system over there. The design firm guesstimated it was going to be $300,000 or $250,000 to change it over. We had a few bids. We didn't fully vet this out. We had a budget, this is what we ran with. We had 4 bids come in. One has an error in it. The 3 others were over $700,000. So the cost of constructions is wild. So every time I come in and say, hey, I think I need this much money, I'm guessing, or I'm using I'm using what professionals are telling me what they think it's going to cost, much like this HVAC project. So they thought it was going to be, say, $250,000, $300,000. Now it's going to be, electric was excluded, so it's going to be closer to $850,000 to do a job. So what I'm trying to do is have the project shovel ready, so when I come in and ask for money, I have the project designed, and I'm also going to take it a step further and have current cost estimates. Then I come and I ask for a number which is a realistic number, which is all vetted through. Right now, we're doing it so we're kind of the cart's in front of the horse, so we want to get things shovel ready before we continue to come and ask.
And the idea behind this, and Matt inherited this problem, and certainly it's not because it's not Matt's fault, and it's not any one person's fault, but, and I know that the finance and warrant committee and town meeting get frustrated when we come in and we say, hey, can we have $700,000 for the Dolan Center roof? And then we go out to bid and it's $950,000. So then we don't have the funds available, so we have to wait a whole additional year to come in and ask you, and now we're asking for 1.1 million or something, because again, the costs have escalated. So had we had the right number in the first instance, we actually would have saved ourselves money. So the idea behind this kind of contract is we will have truer numbers coming in when we ask you all and we ask town meeting to fund something, so that we can actually get projects done on time and when you approve them, versus, hoping that, again, these are design professionals in a lot of cases, like the HVAC projects. The HVAC people kind of know, but if you take that next step and you bring it to a professional estimator, they're going to get us much closer to what the real number is. And so that's the idea behind this.
Michael?
I totally understand where you're coming from with all this. But I'm just stuck on how there can be such a disparity in, one estimate versus the actual. And it's a lack of knowledge on my part on how it all works. But, I'm not trying to be funny, but, somebody at the circus who guesses your weight, they're not off by that much, or maybe they could be, but I'm just saying that's the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, it's just, it's baffling to me that there could be that much of a disparity. And then you have a contract come in, a house doctor come in, and this person can pinpoint it at a cost. So it's just, like I said, it's baffling.
Not just being pinpointed, is ahead of time. So Mike's Roofing, I say, hey, Mike's Roofing, I need a new roof on the town hall. What would that cost? And they're going to say, well, with the amount of square feet up there, I would estimate a good budgetary number is this. What I want to do is say, I don't want to talk to Mike's Roofing. I want to talk to the design professional, have the design completely figured out, have it built, so it's shovel-ready. Take the full shovel-ready project, have a current cost estimate with all the details figured out into it, so I have a true number with the current market conditions. So, because right now, we can't design the projects until we have the funding for the projects. So it's trying to, I don't know if that made sense.
It does, but I think what I didn't ask was, to me at least, past history has shown me at least that there's been maybe a better correlation between the very estimate from Mike's Roofing and then the actual cost of the project, and now that doesn't seem to be the case.
It's post-COVID has gone insane.
So it's post-COVID.
Well, it's the major factor. The labor rates are through the roof, materials are through the roof, timelines on to get materials are wacky. We have a generator pad that's sitting for a generator. It's over a year out for this building. It's in all these. There's just so much going on with. It's so unstable. It's truly a toss of the quarter right now. And we had one contractor that messed up, and he was 550, and he went pale when he saw the other people's bids, because they were closer, and they were in the 750s and 760, I think, so, and that still didn't include the electrical, so it's not a normal time.
Okay. Well, then, as a follow-up to that, as things start to, go back to normal, whatever that was, pre-COVID, do you anticipate this ever to go back to the way it was before?
I don't know.
I won't hold you to it if you say
Well,
maybe, but,
I don't think so, but
okay.
all we're trying to do is line the steps in the proper way, because no matter what, we still have to, if I come up with a number, I still have to have it designed. That takes additional time. So that adds months, and then things that weren't thought about, or if a building code, if an energy code has changed, something, now we have to design for that. So all I want to do is, just, when I come, it's an actual number that we're looking for.
And I may have maybe oversimplified, so this, for some of the smaller projects, I mean, for big projects like schools and buildings, we will still have to get the funding, do the design, and then go forward. But for smaller projects like what Matt's talking about, currently, we still do that, and so we get the money, and then we do the design, and then we find out generally what's really wrong, and then that's what drives the cost up. So this will allow us to do that design work and the estimating work in advance of.
Okay, no, I understand that. I guess where I'm coming from is, people are hearing about COVID, and I understand all that. I truly do. And when someone approaches me, let's say a neighbor or a friend, and, I mentioned COVID, it's just, and it's, to me, while it's a valid explanation, I get it. But when you look at the way things were prior to, I have trouble, getting over that speed bump where it's never going to be the same again, from an expense perspective. I understand it's much harder for you guys to do your jobs, I get that. But on the flip side, it's much harder for me to justify, an expense such as this without, just having a little better sense of what it's really all about. Not that you're not telling me the truth, but I just, like I said, it's baffling to me, so.
Kevin?
I've been on this committee for 8 or 9 years, I think, and this was never, has been a problem up until very recently, where we've had a series of them, I guess, where the numbers were way off. And I think, I don't disagree with you that this is post-COVID, supply chains, all of that stuff. But if even the guys who want to do the work, the bidders, are that far off, and the story you just told us, how this person, who's not in the business in terms of, he doesn't have his own, chits on the table, he's consulting for somebody else. I don't know how he's going to get it more right than the guy who had his livelihood and his business on the line and was that far off.
What I'm trying to do is the cost estimator, like, I'll say PMC is a huge one. They're big around this area. They research every project and what square footage and what the costs were. So they actually come up with really close numbers because they're very conservative. And usually when you have a cost estimate from these firms, they're conservative with their numbers, so you usually know what that project's coming in at and hopefully come in a little bit under budget, but they're using absolutely current market conditions.
Right, but that was always true for the bidders as well. They may not have been as sophisticated about putting their bid together, but they knew what the market was right now. They knew what wage rates were, they knew what materials costs were, and even those people who have a lot of skin in the game are wildly off in this market. And I'm just saying, to abandon a system that's worked in all but the most odd times, which we may hopefully we're coming out of, and to switch over to a new system that I just don't have a sense that it's going to get us closer to the mark than.
But we're not switching the systems, we're switching the order. It's the same system, we still have to go through the design. It's that I'm coming with a final product I'm coming to you with a number from real data with a better design, an approved design,
Which could quickly become out of date in the crazy market that we're in.
well, that's where the cost estimate comes in, and if if we can't afford it one year, well, I still have that design, I can have it cost estimated again, and then I can get a new number for what they're actually going to come in at. But to have I just need a roof, roofs are not just, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects of, on these projects for flashings, insulation, sheathing, like, there's just so many different things that unless it's fully vetted out, we don't know the true cost. So, again, just trying to come with real numbers.
Do you know any, this is my last question, do you know any towns around here that do this?
A lot of them.
Exactly this?
And I was looking earlier this week, a lot of towns do this. The bigger towns, I believe I saw Norwood, I think Westwood has it, Foxborough, like, a lot of people have house doctors. It's very prominent in the market because it's kind of, the cart is now behind like, we're getting, it's a normal thing to do.
Michelle?
So this house doctor is in this line, technical services, other, I'm wondering how much of that line is the house doctor compared to other things, like what's the total cost? And also, is this like basically a retainer we have with a consulting firm, or we pay per project? How does that work?
I believe we had $165,000 in technical services last year, and this was bumped up 105.
Do you think it's gonna cost us 105 to use this?
No, I originally asked, basically, a designer, depending on the complexity of a project, the larger the project, smaller the percentages, but normally on smaller projects, under, $1.5 million, it's 10% of the cost of the project cost. So the design fee, $1 million project is $100,000. So looking at our normal capital, I had asked for $450, that gives me $4.5 million worth of design work. So this is gonna give me $2.5 million, basically, or.
So, hold on, I just wanna make sure I'm understanding. So you're saying there's gonna be savings from how we used to do it, there's gonna be savings in the project,
No.
but here,
Yeah, you won't be asking for it for a part of the projects.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, there'll be savings as far as project costs. When I come to you for the project costs, I'm not going to also keep asking for designs. That's part of the project cost, we would come to you and ask, so yes.
but separate from that savings, just the cost of the house doctor over the course of the fiscal year, we expect to be the 105, or no?
No, it's going to be that entire technical service line,
That's the whole 250,
yes.
is all house doctor, there's nothing else in there?
Nope.
Okay.
That's, technical services was for getting some of the projects ready beforehand as well, and then some of that's what that was used for already,
Okay.
technical service line.
And then how is that house doctor paid? I mean, like, how is that amount figured out? Is it like that, we pay that and we have them on hand all year, or we pay them per project, we're looking for them to cost out?
We're gonna put out we're gonna put in a request for proposals from different design firms, and they're not guaranteed anything, it's depending on our funding, but we're gonna give them an estimate of, we're looking to spend, we're looking at capital, here's our capital list, and this is, like, there's no guarantee to the firms of what we're spending with them, we're just gonna have them.
They're gonna give us an hourly rate, and as they do work for us, we'll pay them on a time and material.
But it's one, we basically like bid it out and we pick one firm that we'll work with, and then it'll be some hourly rate.
So right now, every project we do, we have to bid out design services for.
Yeah.
So this streamlines that process. It also helps us out because if we only have one firm submit, which we've had, we're kind of stuck using that firm. So we get to kind of choose and negotiate a little bit of our pricing, but we have somebody that the town is comfortable with. And we also theoretically should save money because they know how the town, we're not reworking the documents every single time. A lot of it's copy
Yeah.
and paste.
So I don't doubt that this is a good idea, but I think this is probably the third time that I've been in a meeting where we've talked about it, and I think it's confusing. So I just would urge that before we get to town meeting, that, really being clear about what we're doing, how it's different, what they do, what it's costing us, and what, not necessarily hard numbers of what it's saving us, but the fact that it will be saving on the other end and all of that.
Well, and if you look at some of the historical numbers, it's not actually that much of an increase. In 2022, we spent 185, 23, 165. So yes, it's an increase, but based on what, hopefully, the procedural change that'll be associated with it will actually save us a lot more, I think, in frustration going forward. And then these are not monies that are getting double spent. So because they will come off from the project costs in the future, it's an operating increase, but it should come out in the end in our benefit.
And when you're comparing it to the other years, so is this line technical services other, everything that's been in these other years too, we're comparing apples to apples in
yeah.
terms of the same kind of work, it was just done in a different way?
Yep,
Okay.
it was the various design service type work.
Okay, thanks.
Michael?
So, just to echo, Michelle said that it's a little confusing, and I think what I'm hearing and what I agree with is that the rationale around these variable prices and these surprises is not compelling, because you're trying to solve a 2023 problem with a 2025 solution. In other words, we assume this is going to eventually true itself up, to Kevin's point. What is compelling, if I understand it, is that you're not actually asking to spend more money. You're asking to shift it from the proposal for the actual work to this budget, right? So you're just shifting the steps by which something happens and where we incur that cost, not more spending.
Exactly. All this
So
is trying to give us.
why don't we keep that clean? Like, right, just that's it. That, we're shifting the way that we manage projects to reduce what we're going to ask for that capital project, because every one of these needs design costs. We're just moving that to this budget.
And making it more predictable and accurate.
And the benefits of doing that
Yeah.
are predictable accuracy and all those other things.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think it's a messaging problem, I think is the.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, because I think you're right. I think there's a messaging problem, and so if you all help us with that, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Don't lead with the inaccurate, that we've had these kind of rate increases. I don't think that's going to work.
Liz?
I was just going to say, I'm not an economist, but I don't think it's going to true up. I don't think we're going to return to pre-COVID normalcy for a long, long time with all the global uncertainty. But now that I have your attention, I was the liaison to this department, and I just want to say, I was really impressed. I went over and met with Matt at the high school by the work and the ingenuity that your staff has in trying to fix things in-house as much as they can, because we've heard from Matt since he joined that there's a lot to do on the facility side. And then this is more on the capital side, but I took advantage of being at the high school and getting a tour, and one of your custodial staff joined me, and I would just encourage you all, if you have the chance, it was very eye-opening how much work needs to be done, and that was just one school.
Thanks.
I thought we were going to avoid the doom and gloom for the rest of the day.
Okay, let me start with this. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in the high school, and I'm really impressed by the staff and how much they're doing, so I ended on a high.
I am, that is when today I was really proud. I'm proud of the guys, team I have, and it was kind of an interesting day. After I was here this morning, I thought I was going to have a couple of hours of quiet time, and that ended up not happening. But one of our guys, who's up in New Hampshire, was monitoring the building temperatures, found out that the Green Lodge was without heat. So then one of my other guys came in to investigate, notified me, so we went over there, and everybody's on board. And we had sparks, and it was quite an interesting day. I jumped a lot. We had an air compressor for the building pneumatics, burnt up. But it's neat how we have the mechanical department as the facilities department, including the custodians, but the mechanical department, they're top-notch and really work hard to maintain. And so just want to give them a shout-out, because we have great people with us.
It's good to hear. Just a couple more things, Matt. We're looking at the supplies and materials. The 3 columns in a row that are kind of large percentage increase: ground supplies, publications and subscriptions, and tools and small equipment. And then also down a little bit further is vehicle parts and supplies. You see what I'm talking?
Sure. Vehicle parts and supplies. Right now, we have a fleet of vehicles that are way under-maintained. A couple of them unsafe.
Yep.
There's really no money to maintain what we presently have. We have plows that are broken. We have a long a lot of deferred maintenance on our vehicles as well. They just run them until they fail. If we took better care of them and were able to maintain our equipment, I think they will last longer. But I don't think this would every year be so high, but what we have and presently, we need to,
So this is a big cost of Band-Aids, right? Yeah.
literally, very little maintenance has happened. And
Okay.
just like buildings, everything, if you maintain it, that lasts longer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Tools and small equipment, is that for rental stuff, or?
Well, I think that was a leftover from, there. It's partially a leftover. I had proposed adding a landscaper to the town and landscaper to the school, have this town and school each fund a landscaper. There's a lot of area that could use attention to make it more palpable to the public, which we're not staffed to do. So we had requested not only 2 bodies, but also some tools
Okay.
to staff them. We are going to, we could use some new equipment and as far as what we have, so if I had to trim any line, that'd probably be the one I would go right at this point. Because when I was looking at that earlier today or throughout the week, I'm like, yeah, that was mostly because I was trying to build a landscaping team and outfit them with landscaping equipment, but we still,
Yep. And one that really is curious to me is publications and subscriptions. It's 140% increase. Not a lot of money, it just reflects 140% increase.
that was for,
Buying Fix-It magazines, or?
that was for my project manager for his AutoCAD subscription. He wanted to get it, AutoCAD's expired, so he wanted to get a light version of AutoCAD for doing some in-house drawings.
Okay, CAD drawings, okay,
Just like the most basic AutoCAD capabilities.
okay. So overall, we can see it's 20%, 20.1% increase in the facilities budget. Tom? Oh, Michelle?
Can we just go quickly through the personal services too? Just, maybe
yeah.
it's just shifting from one line to another, because there are some big swings with some increases and some decreases.
9.5, clerical admin. Hang on, I'm on the wrong line, 1, 2, 3.
Like,
Not deferred comp, the one above
I'm
it.
just looking at like kind of custodial and,
Maintenance.
yeah. So maintenance seems like there's something new there. And custodial is down a lot.
So the maintenance is a split fund for, I worked, well, I don't know, how do I say this? To appropriately budget for,
So these are two, it's a new cost-sharing arrangement between the town and the schools for positions that have been shared. So we're trying to work out and be more true to get our costs associated with the towns and the schools and the shared department to be a little bit more accurate. So there were 2 positions that were pre-existing within, on the school side, that we are taking over half of the salary for each of those. So that would be the energy manager position and the deputy director position, which the deputy director is a new title, but it was an existing position on the school side. So tell me if I'm wrong, but and so we had a number of meetings with Superintendent Murphy and the new Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Dr. Kelly, to figure out a way of effectively fairly sharing this department and the costs associated with it. And so, well, it's a new cost here, it's not a new
cost.
position.
So that's the maintenance line. It's
Yep.
2 people that are existing at the schools, and you're taking half of
We're taking
them.
half.
Okay.
Good idea.
and then, thank you. Temporary substitutes, we've dropped that down, $20,000. And we put it in the overtime because it was, I don't know why it was done this way before. It was better it's classified properly now.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
And that was it for those.
The custodial seems like a cut, but maybe it's not, I don't know.
No, with retirement and steps.
Okay,
Oh,
Same
so
number of positions.
somebody went out and someone came in at a
Yeah.
lower rate?
okay.
Where does the director's job show up?
School.
Oh, it's on the school side?
So, yeah, so I'm 100% school funded.
Okay.
And the maintenance guys are 100%, I mean, it's all town funded, but it's, like to reflect it better.
And I hope not to confuse things, where it says assistant director, that's actually our project manager, so we pay 100% of that. And then the actual assistant director salary, which is a new position, is the one that was under that maintenance line. So maybe in future budgets, we will fix that, but we
Right.
don't want to confuse you even more than we've already accomplished.
Thank you.
A lot-
Because you know we're still going to ask for a recap of this.
It's not new position,
Before
though, it's a
we-
new title.
Before we deliberate, I guarantee you, we're going to need to have somebody come back in, and Matt and Leon and John, whoever, and review it, because, again, with the shared responsibilities, it can get a little confusing, or a lot confusing. Kevin?
Is there a piece of paper or an org chart or something that shows the
All
facilities
That's a
department?
great idea.
Like the org?
All in one place, regardless of
Yeah,
who
yeah.
funds it?
Yeah, we have an org chart.
Okay. Actually, that would be
That-
helpful. Because
Excellent
we're looking at
idea.
half of the
dotted line
department,
or whatever.
and we look at the other half.
Should I color code it, just so it makes, or, I mean,
Sure.
Or do dotted lines or whatever. Yeah.
I'm trying to say no.
3D.
so we literally are working on one right
Use
now.
crayons.
So it's not a big push to get something to you. I can do it next week.
Okay.
But I'll, we'll color code it with town, school, and then split.
All right, if you can put that together, send it to me, and then I'll distribute it to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I should have reminded
Are all
folks.
positions allocated, are they all shared? Or are they all,
No.
some are pure school, some are
So-
pure town?
Town custodians are purely town buildings, school custodians are school buildings, maintenance are school employees that do both.
And then the management level, it's either, some are all funded by either the school or town, and some are split.
So, yeah, so I'm 100% school, the deputy now is split, energy manager split, project manager is town, admin assistant is town, it's,
Even if you did a color code, blue is town, red is, schools, and some positions are half and half.
Kevin, that's an absolutely excellent idea, because it's confusing, and again, just so we have an idea about who's responsible for what, and who pays, what comes out of their budget for payment for positions. Okay? And send that to me, and then I'll distribute it to everybody, so.
yes, sir.
I just want to also point out that as our past practice, Michelle is doing an outstanding job of updating on unanswered questions, so that we can hold people's feet to the fire when those answers aren't provided, and she can distribute those to.
It's for continuing members, it's the same shared, I'll send the link again, but the
Please.
same, I just made a new tab to the old document that we had, and Cynthia can share it with you, and I don't know if I had shared it with my.
That'd be great. And it goes to Leon and everyone too,
Yep.
John, so.
Thank you.
Because we'll put an agenda item on every meeting, follow up to previous meeting questions.
We good?
I think we are.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Wasn't
you.
that bad, was it?
No, no, this wasn't bad at all. Thank you.
Way better than that motor burning out, right?
Sydney would be next, yeah.
Mr. Semino,
That was definitely interesting.
19 and 20. Good afternoon, Kenny.
Good afternoon.
Everybody ready? Everybody on the,
Page-
okay. Page 19, I think it's,
19.
doesn't,
So my budget is pretty much level funded. The only additional request that I made was $500 in the supplies and materials. That is to cover costs to acquire the new 10th edition of the Massachusetts State Building Codes. They're planning on adopting them sometime during this year. So I put in $500 to account for that cost, for that code. Everything else has been pretty much staying the same. There's been some step increases, I believe, for myself and the assistant inspectors. Other than that, everything else pretty much is the same. If you have any questions?
You had me at 2.1%. You had me at 2.1%.
Well, again, this year, again, we're trying to keep as level funded as possible. I will say possibly next year, I might be asking for a request to do some digitation of the paper files that we have in our office. We have a lot of permit files that go back. These are permit books. All the building permits are bound in books. And I'm contemplating doing that, to put those on a searchable file so that we have a lot of records requests. We probably get at least probably about between 1 and 5 record requests a week. And a lot of those record requests are for different, permit information. So because a lot of our files, all the files are on paper, we have to physically go into those books and, retrieve those files, copy them or scan them, and then produce them for the person that's requesting those files. When everybody buys a house today or sells a house, they're always asking for all the building permit information, and rightly so. But putting it in a searchable database would both save time for the building department and also for the public in their request for searches for information. So that's I don't know what that will be. I'm working with IT to see to get some pricing on that. So I don't have any numbers at this point, and that would be for next year. So it may be a multi-year type of request, depending upon how we go about it. But other than that, try to keep a very low budget as much as I can. Because it's important to try to keep within our numbers, if at all possible. And with my department, most of my department is salaries, so I don't typically have a lot of discretionary spending to begin with. If anybody has any questions, please.
Anyone for anything for
Feel free.
the building?
A real quick one.
Oh.
Super fast.
Sure.
So the inspector code enforcements, these are contracted professionals that come in?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they're my employees.
Oh, they're employees?
So, yeah.
So it's all in-house staff?
So, yeah, it's regular staff.
Okay. How many do we have?
I have, so I have 2 assistant inspectors, and so I have the 2 assistant building inspectors, and then I believe the plumbing inspector is included in that grouping.
Thank you.
All set?
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
You
Not
too.
much left of it.
Chief D'Antremont. Police Department, we're on 14 to 16, is it?
Thank you.
Oops.
Sharing the screen.
Oops. All right, everybody have the papers? All right, go ahead, Chief.
Good afternoon. I can just do a quick run-through. The personnel budget reflects full staffing, all the police officers, the civilian employees, animal control, and parking enforcement, FY '24 rates with no no collective bargaining agreements yet for '25, 81% of the department budget. And going over to overtime, so I give you a breakdown of FY '23 where all the overtime went. Nothing's changed there. The majority of it goes to shift coverage, mostly patrol, and then training with the post commission and rules there. There's an increased training demand. The overtime comes in 4 areas: general overtime, which is the graph, and then there's, actually training overtime from the graph. The training overtime, which generally is our in-service, some specialized training, and then all our use of force and firearms training, which we all do in-house. Overtime for court appearances, and then Fair Labor Standards Act overtime, where officers that are working extra work assignments, if they're over 40 hours working for the town of the week, they get paid their overtime as opposed to the detail rate, and the difference comes out of the police overtime budget. And then the next graph, the same graph I've been providing the last few years with the overtime comparison with communities around us that respond every year with their numbers. So we're pretty close to a few and behind on some others regards to the consumption of overtime funding. And then on, on services, you heard Chief Spillane talk about the transfer of fire maintenance contracts from the police budget into the fire, so that's why there's a reduction in the police technology line. Services are 3.2% of the police budget. On supplies, about 2% of the department budget, and provide a graph with the continued decrease in fuel consumption. We have 6 hybrid vehicles currently. 4 vehicles for this year have not been received yet. Still hard to get vehicles. Hope in the next month or 2 we're going to see them. There's 3 hybrids and an electric vehicle coming, and that we'll get rid of gas vehicles when those arrive. And it's not big money, but drug test kits we no longer need. We purchased this basically a laser analyzer for drugs for field testing for the detectives, and that was an expensive piece of equipment. It was purchased out of drug forfeiture money, so it negates a small expense there. And in other expenses, increase in a couple areas. One is the Greater Boston Police Council operates the Boston Area Police Emergency Radio Network. That's basically infrastructure around the state that has shared frequencies that can be used for special events, or if there's anything going on between jurisdictions, and our officers monitor it for if anything's heading our way from another jurisdiction. So they're at the point that they're projecting a dues increase and a one-time assessment to upgrade some equipment. They have pulled back a little bit on those numbers, but still I think about $250 and $2,500, if I remember correctly. The Metropolitan Law Enforcement Council increased $500 in dues, so that's the regional team for crowd control, missing person searches, and they basically expanded. They have units kind of for all police functions, peer support, investigations. And then the Mass Police Accreditation Commission, their dues went up $920, some other small increases, and it's other expenses are just about under 0.5% of our budget. Capital requests is just one item this year. Well, police vehicles, that's in his operating capital. It's looking at 2 hybrid marked vehicles, an unmarked hybrid vehicle for our detectives, and a new animal control vehicle. About 4% of the budget there. And then just some data in the next couple of slides here. First is the crime data that we submit to the state, who reports it to the FBI for Part 1 NIBRS crimes, which are basically defined as crimes that occur pretty consistently in all areas to some degree and are consistently reported. So there is a little jump there in aggravated assaults, and there could be some increase there, but I think that part of it is, it coincides with our switch to a new records management system, which changed our processing for reporting these Part 1 crimes, so I think they're probably more accurate now. And an aggravated assault basically includes either some use or threatened use of a weapon. And property crimes continue to decrease, but that also might not be completely accurate, because most of it is, property crimes are theft, and there's theft that doesn't get reported in a lot of retail areas these days. And then flipping over to the next slide, we have our call record total for the year, for calendar year '23. A lot of that is patrol-initiated activity, documenting where we're doing traffic enforcement, we're doing security checks at night, where officers are getting out and walking around every shift on foot patrols. And then the bottom there is just a comparison of charges sought between '22 and '23. So there's a jump up in the charges sought, and this is both arrests and summonses sent over to the court. So most of them are motor vehicle-related offenses, and then followed by assaults, but there's a little bit of an increase, and an increase in theft charges that's pretty large there. And that's, so I just gave you the major categories, so you're off by a little bit there with regards to the totals. And on the right there, actually, so 7,843 motor vehicle infractions were cited during '23, and the top 10 reasons for citations being issued are all on the graph there. So speeding and failing to stop are the top 2 reasons. Also, pretty significant risk-taking behavior can lead to crashes. It's all good addressing appropriate reasons on the roads. Next slide is animal control statistics. So increasing here again, Animal Control Officer Goldman is very passionate and committed about her work. She does an awful lot of follow-up. And there's also some data down the bottom there for Westwood calls. So as of November, an agreement was reached with Animal Control Officer Goldman, also covering Westwood, that uses their police department for a lot of the animal calls, so they only reach out to her for small number. And the back page just gives some data on parking tickets, the '23, the total tickets, the fines issued. As you can see, handicap parking is the most frequent reason for a parking ticket being issued, and then the tickets paid and the fines collected. And it's like these handicap parking violations, there's a lot of appeals on them. There's a lot of cases where people are reporting that either the placard fell down or they forgot to put it up. So some of those, are getting waived when they're appealed, because they legitimately were using the handicap spot. They just didn't have the right information in place. That's a quick summary.
Thanks, Chief.
Chief, did you have an unusual number of retirements or resignations?
We had some, yeah.
No. Is that why looks like your payroll's actually going down? I assume it's high-step people are retiring or leaving and being replaced by younger officers.
Yes, yep, there were some retirements and, a couple transferred to other department, one left policing. So yes.
Thank you.
Michael?
Chief, thank you for this information. I just had a quick question regarding the equipment that was purchased with the drug forfeiture money, so that the drug test kits were not needed. You mentioned it was an expensive piece of equipment. I was just curious to know how much it would have cost had we not had the drug forfeiture money, and if in the future, if it needs to be replaced, and we don't have access to the drug forfeiture money, how much it would cost.
It cost $37,000.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else have any questions for the chief? I just looked, this employee testing, there's a 52% increase on purchased services. Just
Yep.
Haven't seen that large percentage, not a lot of funding, but just that percentage increase?
Yeah, so that is going to be projected increase on new employee hiring. So what I've basically done in the past for projecting what it'll cost for psychological exams and medical exams for new hires if I don't know that, someone is leaving, going to retire, and we're definitely hiring, is looking at the last 3 years, and the average number of recruits that were hired. Last year was 2, this year is 3.
Okay. So that's reflected there. Right, anything else? Seeing none? Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Steve.
Health Department, it's 28 and 29, I believe. Hi, Connie.
Hi, good afternoon, how are you?
Great. Let's wait for everybody got the page up? Yep. All right, go ahead.
Essentially, it is a level funded budget for you folks today. Really, the only changes we see are in personal services, and so we do have some changes there. We're seeing a decrease in car allowance because we have access to a town vehicle now. We are seeing a change in longevity differential as well because we've had some staffing changes, so that's a result of that. One piece I would like to highlight specifically is under the inspector/code enforcement line item for that $10,000 that hasn't been funded in the past. And so that's to fund our contracted food inspector, who we've had for a couple of years now, who's been funded through CARES money, but now is being requested to be included in our operating budget. So those are what I would consider the big ticket items. Really, I'm not sure if there are any questions.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to digest the different line items. What is, the total personnel seems to be increasing more than other departments, 8%, which looks like it would be more than the STEP guidelines.
Sure.
Is there something else going on in here?
There are just some, if you look at the fiscal year /24 budget, there are just some errors that are listed. So like, for example, for the clerical/admin, it says 51,129. That number is actually not reflective of the current pay rate. So it looks like there's a bigger increase for that particular individual. That's why you see that 16%. But actually, it's just, should be the normal 3% step. And so it looks more than it is. She's getting paid appropriately right now, but she's not getting paid that 51.
So that will be fixed before we get to, yeah.
And then similarly, if you look at the health inspector line item, you see an increase of $10,000. That's because that $10,000 that's also listed in the inspector/code enforcement line item was accidentally entered twice. And so that line item isn't going to change. It's going to stay at 88,770. And that's because our health inspector has maxed out at the steps. So those two errors, I would say, make it look a little more of an increase than it actually is.
So, I think I follow you. So one of these two $10,000 increases is incorrect, and it will be, so your total of $35,662 for personnel really should be $25,662. Is that what you're saying?
The 36, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
number? Yes, it would be even less than that because, yes, it would be minus 10,000 because that was entered twice. And then back up to the clerical/admin, it's not actually going to be an increase of $8,000. It's more so going to be an increase of about $3,000.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Anyone else have any,
The $10,000 entry, the one that you said, I think somebody was switched over from a grant or?
So yes, we have a contracted food inspector who helps us complete our mandated routine food inspections. And so for the past 2 years, that's been funded through CARES Act money.
So this person gets 10,000, is going to get 10,000 from the town, and then how much additional from the other funding source?
So it's just budgeted for 10,000 in total. So it's like a per diem inspector, it's a part-time
okay.
position, and so they're just assigned a certain number of inspections.
So there won't be
per
some
month.
other source of
Correct.
compensation supplemental?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So at the end when it says health total, that 8.7 will be adjusted downward.
Do you know what it is, by any chance, or not yet? Do you know what the correction? It's okay, just if you knew off the top of your head, that's fine.
Well, if it goes down by over 20,000, it'll be in the 4% range.
I'm gonna think it's gonna go down by about 15,000,
Oh, 15.
just off the top of my head.
All right.
That makes your total personnel cost just a 4.5% increase instead of a 7.8% increase.
That sounds right.
Right. But we'll be getting a corrected update. Anyone else? Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, you as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Munchback,
It's amazing how they go fast.
Oh, yeah.
pages 2 through 9, I believe.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. No, he keeps calling it out.
Am I right?
It's all about me.
9,
2 through, no,
2 and 9.
2 and 9.
2 and
Page
9.
2 and then page 9.
Here for me.
Page 2 on the front part, and then 9 on the back, on the other.
Anyone's looking at the front.
I don't think anyone is either.
Right.
Town clerk. Everybody all set? Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chair. Paul Munchback, Town Clerk's Office. So there is a slight increase in the budget. The reasoning is, I'll give just a general reasoning, and then I can go through it, is because of the state and federal elections, so every even-numbered year, we either have an extra 1 or 2 elections or extra 3 elections. So this year, we have a presidential election, so we have a state primary, which will be in September. We'll have the presidential election, which will be held in November, and then we'll have our town election, so we'll have 3 elections this year. So with that, there is some additional costs. Most of them are state mandated. We go through the personnel services. Other than some of the increases that are sometimes are contractual, meaning longevity, or are negotiated, we'll see the biggest increase will be to temporary substitutes. Temporary substitutes are our election workers. Included in that is our, when we have our state and federal elections, we're required by law to have available early voting in person. For the state primary, we have 7 days of early voting, which we have to have staffed with 3 poll workers throughout the day for 7 days. And for the presidential election, it is for 14 days that we have to have staffed, and we fund for that. We do these numbers, as I've mentioned in the past, but for some of the new members, most of this is reimbursable. It's, even though it seems like an unfunded mandate, it is funded with the DOR, and they will send us a portion of the money for the presidential primary. We're getting, I think we already got $10,000 back. It doesn't, I don't have, the town clerk's office doesn't have a revolving fund, so it goes right back to the finance department, and it goes into the general fund. And we're anticipating out of the $48,000 that we'll be getting about $24,000 back. I'll wait to hear from the state auditors what the DOR will give us for that. So the money we have to put up front, they will then reimburse us a portion of that back. But that's where the coverage is, the increase. Any questions with that, I guess?
A couple of years ago, you remember, we increased the compensation for the temporary poll workers, and I'm just
Yes.
curious how that's working out.
So we did. We worked out for FY '23, '24, and '25. It was almost like a 3-year contract to stay up with the state minimum wage law, which the election workers were exempt, but we had a tough time recruiting, but we always seemed to follow what the state minimum wage law was. And this would be going into the final year, and I think that's the way we budget it, that it would end at the presidential year, just because those are the busiest years. So it's been working out great. We just hired 8 to 10, we hired 10 new additional poll workers to work the polls in anticipation of a busy election year. And with that, the training is included in their fee. So they don't get paid for the training, but it's part of the fees that we put into place. So the wardens are making $17.58 an hour, the clerks making $15.86, and the election workers, just the regular poll workers, are making $15.17. So that's been an increase, not as much for the last couple of years, but that's where the increase was on that. But it's been working out terrific.
So did you say it's going to expire? Do we need to renew it, or?
Well, it really hasn't expired. It's when we put it in place, when the Finance Committee and Town Meeting voted to put it in place, we budgeted it up until FY '25. So it still stays in place. It's not contractual. But that's what we anticipated where the raises for the election workers would go to. And I still think that's fair. And that, like I said, includes the training, which we do 2 hours of training, if not more. This time we had 4 hours just because of the elections. We usually have them before each one of the elections, and the poll workers, before they take their position, have to do the training, which they all did. And then we do a refresher for everybody else.
So any adjustment to their salaries will have to be initiated in next FY '26.
It would be, and that would go through, and the select board would make that determination on the poll workers' pay. They would present it to myself, I would present it to the FinCom, and then it would be included in the personnel budget.
But then I think when we adjusted it 3 years ago, was it? Yeah. 3? Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
It was initiated by this board and then.
Then brought back to the select board,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think it was yourself and.
No, it was
that
everybody
brought it
agreed
up,
to
and
it.
it
We
went
all
forward.
agreed to it, because I think it was, given the issues of evolving elections, I thought it was, we all thought it was a very good thing to make, to bring at least to minimum wage types of things. And I would envision that next year we would reevaluate that.
Yes, that would be great, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other?
Oh, sorry. And then on purchase of services, you'll see there's a significant increase in equipment repair. The reason for that is we had purchased, if you've been to the polling locations, or early voting, we purchased poll pads, the electronic check-in. So with those include maintenance plan that went through the procurement process. And what those are is the state is just authorized so that towns can not only use the check-in book, but they can use the poll pads, which is an iPad for checking in, which helps expedite the check-in, and it also helps with the closing at the end of the evening. So we've been introducing it slowly to the poll workers. We've done some initial training on it. We introduced it, which we've always been using for the early voting in person. And then for this election, we were using them as what we call alphabeticals to look up residents that come in that might be in the wrong precinct or they're not registered to vote. And then the next process will be doing a dual check-in with them, and then we'll be initially, hopefully by the presidential, they'll be up and running. Well, they're up and running, but they'll be used on a permanent basis. So that's the increase on the initial maintenance plans. That'll probably go down next year. That was the initial setup plan for that on the software. So that will reduce back next year. That's just for this year. The other increase was For public safety officers, that's once again because we have an additional election, additional 2 elections, but additional election from this past FY '24. So we have one public safety officer at every polling location. There's been a little bit of an increase only for the fact that the patrolmen, they were short-staffed, so they had to use senior officers to fill the polling locations. Usually it would go from the lower paid patrolmen, but they had a shortage of them. So they had, the booking officer, a sergeant, sent us a memo with the police chief just saying that they have to use superior office to make sure that it's covered, and that's required. So, and then there's been a big decrease in supplies only because we had a one-time purchase, which was still waiting on the delivery of, which the FinCom approved, was for a designated mail-in ballot box for the election, especially for the presidential and the state primary. Reason for the delay is that they're just out of stock. We've been waiting for about 4 to 5 months for it. So we're anticipating that hopefully come in within the next month or so. That'll be expended. But other than that, there'll be no increase in the supplies for FY '25.
Was the delay attributed to COVID, or?
No, just this demand.
Everything else seems to be, so.
What it was is the state before suggested it, and then they were mandating that we put in a designated, so then everybody did what I anticipated and put in for it, so.
It was a feeble attempt at humor from my meeting.
Oh, okay.
Very
So-
feeble.
Very feeble, yes. Go ahead. No.
So those have been the increases. Like I said, FY '26, you'll see a decrease because unless we have an unanticipated election or an unanticipated town meeting that comes up. And as I mentioned, I'm anticipating out of some of the increases in the patrolmen and the temporary substitute in the public safety that we'll get back, the town will get back a portion, and I'm thinking it'll be rough draft, it's like 24,000 that will come back, which is about half, so, and that'll go into the general fund.
What's a special town meeting cost, or a town meeting?
A town meeting is really not that expensive. So we're just paying for the stenographer, and the schools will pick up the custodial fees.
Police detail?
Yeah, we have police details on that time, and then we have some overtime staffing, but a special town meeting's a couple of $1,000. It's not really expensive. An election, obviously, there's state mandated and federally mandated things that we have to have, whether it's staffing, whether it's like handicap accessible machines that have to be there, and then the programming, all that. So that's where the bigger cost is. But a town meeting's, it's in around 2,000, maybe 2,500. In the same, and if we have a special within the annual, there's no really increase.
There's no cost. Anyone else have any questions for the clerk? Seeing none, thank you. Paul.
Great, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Veterans Department, which is page 31, I believe.
Good afternoon.
Good job.
Thank you, Joe.
Pretty simple, real small budget. And nothing has really changed. The only increase you'll see is just from the steps for myself and my administrative assistant. And that's it.
So, sorry to make you come here.
No, that's okay.
I probably could have shared that. I was the liaison.
Should have said you're a liaison, yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
That's all right.
Thank God you live close by.
Yeah, not a problem, right?
You can tell it's getting late. But we're all concentrating.
Somebody ask a question.
No, the only thing I'll add is the biggest need we have for the veterans is we're seeing our senior veterans, fixed income veterans who, homeowners, so their taxes are really high. So any way we can get them any kind of benefit, whether it's health care through the VA or compensation, If you do come back with a compensation, then we have the tax work-off program, but we also have a tax break for disabled veterans. That's up to $800 off your property tax, so any little bit does help. Most of the veterans don't come in and complain and moan about things, but this is one concern they've had, is seeing their property tax increase so much. On that, guys have been retired, and people retired for 30 years, pension's not growing, and the COLA and their Social Security isn't cutting it.
Do you have any sense of the percentage of veterans in town that make use of your services and?
Yeah, so I'd say we have at least 100 active cases. Not all are dead for the federal side, the VSO's job. We can, 115 has to be administered by the town you live in. That's the state-funded program. Obviously, federal, we can work with anybody. But we do get a lot of Hyde Park, Reedville, West Roxbury. It's just easier for them to come here than it is to travel into the city. We have a monthly meeting with the Council on Aging, Military Mondays. That's grown to about 20 to 25 people who come. It's open for everybody. It's not just for veterans. It's spouses, it's whoever wants to come in. And so we go over benefits, and we try to stay away from serious topics that we can't handle, but we do talk about current events in town and what's going on. So it's growing. It's great that we were able to do that. And there are a lot more veterans coming in to seek services.
So, related to that last comment, I'm just looking at the veterans' benefits, and I have no idea, but I'm guessing we probably, it seems we budget 100,000 every year. We probably budgeted 100,000 in 2023, but it looks like we're spending a lot less. Is that because?
That's the state program. That's the Chapter 115, right? So that's the, for lack of a better term, it's a welfare program. It's another means for veterans or dependents of veterans, widows, widowers as well, to get on a program that the town allots the money to the budget. We pay out whatever the calculation is for the Chapter 115. It's a very difficult program to get on. I mean, to be under the FPL and only have $8,000, less than $8,000 in assets in your bank's not a lot of money. So not a lot of people are able to qualify for that.
That was my question.
But that's a regular, across the state, we're kind of seeing in the towns that the Chapter 115 program shrinking.
So it's not like people don't know about it. It's
Correct,
just they
correct.
just can't meet the limit.
Yeah, so we had,
Okay.
3 years ago, we had about 18 recipients. Now we're down to 6. 3 new applications going in this month, but it's either people are passing away or they're graduating off of the program, meaning their assets are too high.
Yeah.
I'm a rookie on the board, so could you just give a brief summary of what services are provided to the veterans?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the main one that we have in Massachusetts is the Chapter 115, that's that state one I was just talking about. So every town in the state administers the Chapter 115 when it's applicable. I find using the VA, so obviously the VA benefit, we're very lucky to be in Massachusetts and have so many VA facilities close. Other states aren't nearly as lucky or have the access to a VSO. Massachusetts is the only state that has a VSO in every community. Everything else is regional across the country. So to get in the VA is the biggest benefit. Comes with the health care and then usually some kind of compensation. So it's a monthly check that's anywhere from $180 at 10% to $3,700 at 100% compensation. And it's non-taxable. It's the best benefit we can try to get, especially our senior veterans on. We have a 92-year-old veteran, Korean War vet, just got his last year compensation. And a 96-year-old World War II vet, same thing. 70 years later, he's finally got compensation. He's using the VA, so it's a great program. The VA, I can't say enough good things about it. And again, it's only because we're so lucky to be in Massachusetts and have the facility that's right there. But that for the most part is, and we'll coordinate if families need gift cards. I work very closely with Health Department and Council on Aging. A lot of the same clientele pass through. So you'll see me down there a lot of calling bingo or whatever I'm doing. It's usually mostly seniors. Not many young veterans anymore. I think our active military numbers are as low as they've been since World War II ended. So that's kind of concerning, but we have had a couple veterans, you know, in their mid-20s come home in the last year. So I think there's 5 new young veterans that are in the office in the program. So we just keep trying to get everybody in the office and see what we can get. Just throw it at them and see what sticks.
And just as people, or folks that you deal with come in, and I can understand the discussions about the taxes, I mean, that hits to, I think, everybody that's sitting in front of you right now, that this board, in my experience, has worked extremely hard in cooperation with the town management folks and everyone to lessen the impact of those tax increases. I think we've done as good a job as we can, and this year's going to be, again, as I keep saying every year, and we all sit here, next year will be easier. It's not.
No, right.
And, but we are.
prepare for it. We don't, I tell them it's going to be more next year. That's just the way life's going to be. Just be ready for it.
And we're just trying to mitigate those increases as best we can and still provide what folks want for services. And it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge, but I can totally understand some of the folks that you deal with that would, that are, let's face it, they're up against it. I mean, this latest tax increases, we used to talk about all the time, and about our veterans and our fixed incomes, Social Security, but this is into the middle class now, without question. So, but if you could, I'm sure you'd do that, but we're doing everything we can do, and the town folks are doing everything they can do. It's just some things that are there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we appreciate everything you do for the veterans and the families too.
Thank you.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.
Enjoy what's left of your day.
Thanks, Joe. See you at pickleball tomorrow?
I'll be there.
Oh, Lord. Aaron. Endicott Estate, 35, I think.
And we have a handout too.
And there's a handout, yeah.
Very pretty picture on the front.
That's the estate. Not this year.
Okay. All set?
1.9%, we're good here.
Go ahead.
So the budget is pretty level service this year. Personal services has stayed the same. We have 2 full-time and 1 per diem. The only increases are that with step increases and whatever the salary increases. Underneath personal services, purchase services is advertising, where we spent a big portion of our money. It went down by $300 this year. It's just some of these platforms have merged with other platforms. They don't exist anymore. That's online social media platforms, and that's our only form of advertisement. Printing and mailing, that's money that's kept aside in case we need signs or anything like that at the estate. I don't use it a lot, but it's good to have it in case we need it last minute for something. Public safety services, that money there is $6,000 in that budget. That money is reimbursed from the client, so that's just money that's put aside so that I can pay the police details, but the client or whoever's renting the estate pays that money back. Supplies and materials, furnishings and fixtures, that has been a pretty steady $3,500 every year. That gives us the opportunity to replace chairs, tables, light fixtures, if we're updating light fixtures, knobs, that kind of architectural stuff around the estate. Ground supplies is $1,500, it's been that way for years. And that's That's for the flowers and the urns. It's for the hanging baskets on the back. Holiday, we put holiday decor around. We use some of that for holiday decor. Under supplies and material costs, we don't have anything. The only other expense we have is dues and memberships. That's just put aside to attend any conferences or networking events, which we do from time to time, but hasn't really picked up too much since COVID. And that's about it. I put the flyer together, so there might be some questions on that.
What are you projecting your income's gonna be next year?
About the same.
Three something?
331,000 in fiscal year 2023. We did increase fees this year, but they went up in July, so a lot of the money and the funds that are coming in now are with the old prices. It's a balance from the deposits originally received.
Are the bookings picking up and continuing to
Yes.
grow?
Yep. We've been very busy. One of these pages in here lists how many events that we have done, which the numbers are back up to, pre-COVID time. In terms of paid events, weddings. Corporate events are definitely up as opposed to fiscal year '22 as well. And yeah, 331,900 was the revenue that came in fiscal year '23. After the costs of estimated, indirect expenses like heat and electricity, and the caretaker under facilities, his salary. So it looks like that the operating budget itself is covered again in fiscal year '23 with additional revenues of about 51,000.
Erin, in the update section of your handout, you mentioned that the roof was replaced in
Yeah, that
early
was done.
December of 2023.
Yes.
I'm just curious, it says the engineering field report is being reviewed and open items currently being discussed with installer and manufacturer. Are there a lot of open items and?
So the roof was done, but there were some issues that we observed. So they brought back the engineer and the installer, and they're working with the manufacturer to make sure that those issues that we saw were not going to affect the warranty or the life of the roof.
So there won't be any, I shouldn't answer this question with an answer. Will there be any additional costs incurred as a
No.
result of these? Okay.
No. If anything, we'd get money back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the new facility director is working on that, but we're kind of all involved with discussions.
Okay.
He doesn't want any shoddy work.
Either do we.
Quick question. What does it cost to rent the estate, and do you have different tiers based on what the event is?
So it's different depending on the day of the week. It's different on the season as well. There are resident rates, there are non-resident rates. There are weekday rates, weeknight rates. So it's all over the place. A typical Saturday for a wedding or any other Saturday event for a non-resident is $4,200 to rent the estate. A resident would be $3,700.
Okay. And what does that client then get for that $4,200? Just the rental of the space?
Yes.
And that's it?
And the
they bring
tables
in-
and chairs,
They bring
yeah.
in their own?
Yeah, all we have is space. That's all we can rent.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions this time? Seeing none?
Can I go quick one?
Oh, sure.
So I'm just looking at page 8 here, so just to validate, it's, the Endicott Estate pays for itself then?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And that's-
Except for the capital project.
Except for the capital project?
Yeah, when we have to replace a $250,000 roof. But the capital projects, honestly, I don't see anything in the near future for anything large, other than the replacement of the barn.
I was gonna say the barn, yeah.
And hopefully, you know, that'll be discussed, so. Any
Thanks
other
for coming in.
questions? Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
We did wait, the town manager is going to go last, so just so you know. You weren't the last one, he's going to be the last one.
start out the day?
Oh, he started,
He's going to finish it, too.
but we decided to do it that way. It was a high-level decision.
Go out with a bang.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
All right, Leon, why don't we finish up engineering, which is 21 and 22, I think?
Yep.
You are Jason right now, okay?
I wish I was.
Yeah, he's on vacation.
So I.
I'd rather not be with us, I don't understand.
It's no, don't take it personally. He's just.
I won't.
He's on vacation. But very much deserved vacation. So engineering is a small but mighty department. They do a lot of good work for the town. So there's the engineering director, there's two engineers, and the GIS department, which consists of the GIS technician and the GIS manager. Going through this, I'll call out some of the major things you might notice, and I know Jason had an opportunity to meet with you all too, so the liaisons probably know much about this too, but some of the big reductions here are cleanup, as you've seen in other departments. So clerical admin, for historical reasons, there was a clerical admin line here, but that position always been actually within the DPW, so we actually moved that over, so it's now accurately reflected. So engineering does not have a position. That position belongs to DPW, so we put it back in the DPW budget where it belongs. You see some other decreases here, particularly in the technical services other line, going down, that's under purchase services. You see a $33,000 decrease, or 28%. And the reason for that is kind of like what Matt Hafner was explaining before. We hire in expert engineers and things like that based on projects and workloads, and based on just the variation that Jason is predicting for this year, we don't need as much technical outside services, so you see that number coming down. It may go up in future years based on which projects we have in the pipeline, but that varies from year to year, and this happens to be a slightly down year. Other than that, it's pretty much level service.
Any expenses from Jason's area go into the stormwater, or is that, were there any shifted over?
There used to be the warrant article that you would see every year from Jason to fund the stormwater, and so that was a standalone warrant article, not an operating number, but no, Jason does not have anything going into stormwater.
Okay. And no personnel or anything else shifted over?
No, we have the stormwater manager, and that's in the planning, zoning,
Right.
natural resources office.
Was that in engineering at one point?
No, that position never existed. That was a new position that was funded by the stormwater.
Okay,
manager.
all right.
Yep.
Does the stormwater manager report to Jason?
No, it reports to Jeremy. Works in close relationship with the utility billing, which is here in town hall as well, and then in Jason, so in the position, formerly was in our conservation department.
So are we still in the accumulation phase of the
Yes.
stormwater fee?
Yep.
And do you see any other opportunities to offload stuff off of the levy?
I don't think so. I think, again, we need to be really careful with that, because we don't want to be seen as, first of all, seen as piling things in there, but also there are specific legal requirements as to things that we can charge to stormwater, because that's the reason why we purposely set up that enterprise fund. So I think we've done a good job of moving things in there that are appropriate. I don't see any major changes in the future, but again, we're in the development still phase of this, and we're hoping that, over the next 7, 8, 9, 10 years, we will make good progress on the phosphorus removal, maybe be able to reduce that fee to a more of a maintenance level. But we're in the accumulating phase now, as you said. We'll be in the big expense phase in a couple of years, and then hopefully we'll be on the down.
Do you envision that when we get to the expenditure phase in a big way, are we going to have to supplement that? No. Okay.
Any other questions? For Leon, formerly known as Jason, or whatever? Okay. All right, thank you.
All right.
Now we go into debt service and employee benefits, which is
The last page is here, right?
36 and 37, is that it?
So I'll start with debt service, if that's okay with you.
Certainly.
Debt service, you see there's a 2.2% increase, just under $300,000. And that is, it's a projection based on FY '25 capital that, and also an issuance that we expect to happen in April. So as we get closer to town meeting, we're going to true this number up a little bit for you. But this is, again, it's a slight projection right now based on information we've received from our financial advisor. But this is a pretty close estimate where we think we'll land. And it's consistent with where we've been in recent years. Again, a slight uptick. We should see small decreases coming in the future years based on the new policy. But this is, well, I shouldn't say that. We'll see small decreases to the amount that counts towards our policy. But if there's a new school project that includes excluded debt, you'll see this line go up.
Is there anything big that's going to come off?
I was just going
in the next couple of years?
There are some things that are coming off in the next couple of years.
Avery, I think.
I can send you the debt schedule so you
That'd
can
be
see.
great.
Yeah. This does factor in a few things, either the amount, because they're not fixed amounts every year, so they do vary.
Right.
So we have some things that are either reducing or coming off, and I can send you the schedule.
Can I make a suggestion with that schedule to send out? And sometimes it gets confusing with different things, but I think what we're looking for is the quote-unquote big ticket items, like school replacements, different things, school buildings, I should say. This building, the early childhood center, any of those.
Like $1 million and up or something like that?
Because what gets kind of in the weeds is some of the road work and stuff, which is ongoing anyway.
Yeah, and
Has
some of the
been.
other, like some of the capital equipment is a $300,000 or $400,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah.
So we can give you that.
It gets murky.
Yeah, $1 million.
And the biggest thing is when will they come off? Just talking about the middle school, I think the middle school's off. That's over 20,
Middle school is.
2006.
Yeah, that's probably either, if it was a 15-year bond, it's probably come off.
I think it was a 20-year bond.
Was it 20? Okay,
Yeah.
so we have that report we can run for you. We also have this tool called Debt Book, which it'll graphically show it too. It'll be helpful for some of the bigger projects. We can do 2 of those things for you.
Because Avery was still, that was 2012, that's still, that was a 25, I think.
The ECEC in 2019.
Yeah, so those are still part of the picture, but,
And of course, this building and the public safety building are relatively new additions.
exactly. Mike?
So just if I can understand where we are, if I just took this 13,746,884 number as a percentage of the total projected expenditures, I get 9.4%. So is that about where we're at in terms of?
If you're looking at it on a gross basis, yes, but for policy, we look at it and we exclude out things that are either paid by enterprise fund or that are considered excluded debt. So we can give you a couple of different calculations for that, but yeah, on a gross basis, yes, you're correct.
But in terms of policy, we're not at 9.4%, we're
No,
someplace
we're lower
something
than
lower. Do you know where we are?
Something?
7 something? Okay.
7.23.
Is that,
exact?
Yeah,
It's
no, I remember the 7.23 number. It was in the policy
Okay,
meetings,
that
but
that was my question. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we checked that before we advocated.
for the 7.5.
Thank you.
We're near the top of our policy, our new policy, but we would not be quite there.
as I recall from the benchmarking, what we have for debt service is compared to the other communities is rather high. We're right up there in first, second, and third place, so. But again, as Leon mentioned, 25 years of inertia with anything, and then in 20 years, 24 years now, it's just been pedal to the metal and to catch up.
Well, except all those big expenditures are excluded from the calculation. So
True.
that's the thing we got to, it's a very detailed calculation that excludes all those big expenditures. So all the more that, you know, you got to know what's really in the 7.5%.
Yes.
Yeah, just to add a little bit more explanation to that, and I know everyone wants to go home, but they are excluded from our policy calculation, but when we did the benchmarking, they were not excluded. That was looking at it sort of.
Oh, in gross.
On a gross basis,
Okay.
which showed that we were pretty much, I think, twice the level of debt service that most of our peers have, which is significant when you're looking at that amount.
Mike, or Liz, you're talking about what's excluded from that?
Debt exclusion is
Debt
excluded.
exclusion.
Oh, anything was the debt exclusion?
Yeah.
That exclusion.
Which basically was the middle school,
Middle and the,
Avery,
yeah.
that's the only thing that's on there that
Yeah,
was
we only did
excluded
a debt
debt.
exclusion for the
Well,
eight.
was ECEC?
No.
No, that was Robin Ray's,
Oh, that's right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The whole thing?
yeah,
Well,
30 million. Actually, no, 27 million, 26 million.
when I said, so there were, that was a little bit of the confusion, is that there were projects that were not, there were not debt exclusions sought for them because of the Robin Reyes Fund, but in actuality, we now have $6 million worth of debt service that we've said is Robin Reyes debt, but we only have 1.8 million in annual revenue into Robin Reyes, so we're only paying actually a portion of that 6 million. And so it is hurting our levy capacity to the tune of over $4 million.
Because that's a big hunk of money to come out from raising appropriate levy money into pay the remaining debt service, is that the word, on the Robin Ray's.
Do we know how many cities and towns are still under the Prop 2.5 cap and never did an override?
And have never done an override. I don't know offhand.
Mass Municipal would have that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's on DLS website.
Yeah.
There's a list of all the overrides and whether they
Okay,
failed or
yeah.
passed. I'm sure we can pull something like that together for you. I don't know that. I don't know off the top of my head. Anything else?
OPEB, we are putting money into that this year?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But we're keeping it level at the 750 that we did last year. The goal was to try and increase that to $1 million. And again, we've just to try and mitigate the increase, we held it flat at that. There isn't currently no requirement that we fund it at any one amount. The goal is to get it,
Wasn't that part of our
financial policy.
policies was?
To try to get it up to funding the full amount. But,
How far off are we now, do you know, about? Brady? You can figure that out, right? Okay.
I think if we were filling the full amount, it would be somewhere in the realm of $3 million a year. I'll get you that exact number.
And it's good to see the pensions, the contributory only isn't a 2% increase, which compared to past years has been much more.
Which is much appreciated, and we're, for the latest actuarial report, we're somewhere in the 86% funded, and the goal is to get us to 100% funded, and then we'll only pay what they call the normal cost, which will be significantly less than this. because we won't have to be getting caught up on that.
Because as I recall, because I sat in a couple of those meetings with the retirement board, this is the second year of the 3-year where there was a request that the town made, and Mike Butler was the rep at that time, and I was there from this board, to try to give us a 3-year picture,
Yes.
because of obviously putting budgets together, forecasting and things like that, and I think they did do that, and unless I'm really mistaken, next year will be similar to the two. Now, what happens after that, that goes through that whole process they have with the actuaries and what's that, prim board and the state and et cetera, et cetera.
Overall investment, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and hoping that when the stock market's doing well, we do well. So
Oh,
that's-
exactly.
When the stock market doesn't, then our unfunded liability goes up.
Goes way down.
Well, of course, the
On
new
paper, it's all on
actuaries
paper,
came
yeah.
in, they changed all the assumptions. Everybody was gonna die 10 years later.
Yeah.
You know, all, and
Yeah, the actuarial tables changed.
they whacked.
They did.
Our rate of return changed.
Right.
There were a whole bunch of things that changed in there that, to our detriment.
That was,
We went from the 90s
Yeah, we were almost.
down
funded,
to,
yeah.
we probably hit the high 70s at some point when the market hit, tanked.
I have a question.
Sure.
I know it's late, but as the actuarials changed, the finish line, if you will, how is that compared to the actual, activity in the retirement account? In other words, let's say they're saying the normal person will live till they're 90. So we have to fund this amount. Let's say that doesn't happen. Does anyone do an analysis, or is that part of the process to see where, our funding requirement is based on these actuarial requirements versus the reality of what's happening and how often
It's
those
something that the board's doing, and they do an update on a regular basis, and they have the actuary look at that as well. So it's both a theoretical thing and a current performance aspect. So they are looking at that because you're right, they don't want us to diverge too much from reality to.
But then if you have a new actuary, they do the same calculation and come up with very different results. And they do it because they're new. Like, that's the time to do it. I'm not gonna relook at my own actuarial things that I've been telling you for 10 years and say, oh, I was wrong. People are gonna live a lot longer. So it's an opportunity. If you're the new actuary, you want in your first year, the first time you look at it, that's when you want to make all your corrections. And then you leave yourself a ton of wiggle room. So,
because the retirement board does have that consultant that comes in, and as I recall, that process and.
Siegel.
Siegel,
Which
yeah.
is the actuary, yeah.
Who was, and I think going through the process for 2 years, and I was sitting there on and off. They were very transparent and, admitted in some cases that some of the information was not really on target in terms of what the retirement board was looking for.
Well, and because of the way they do their study, it's always on performance up to the most recent. It's kind of like the way we do our assessing. So it's you're looking back based on the January prior when they do their revaluation. So things are somewhat frozen in time, even though the reality currently might be very much different, which because it's so influenced by the market values and stock market, you can know that the actuarial report that you're getting, say in the fall, because it's based on the prior January,
Yes.
is going to be accurate or inaccurate.
the irony in all of this is that the state, which mandates that we make all these payments, whatever the local board tells us to do, they're funded at like 52%, if that. And we're at 80 whatever percent.
Yeah, and Dedham is still one of the, I think,
Best.
one of the best, we're in the top 10% for sure.
Yeah. And the other thing is, there's not the slightest chance that any retiree is ever going to lose a nickel. Because if we just decided to go, if we just went belly up, the first dollar in taxes that gets collected goes to the retirees.
Yep.
They get paid before anybody. So it really is just this theoretical exercise where a local board gets to wield some power.
I remember that you were talking about the percentages and where cities and towns, Boston is something like 38%. They don't care. This is, you know.
Well, and a lot of communities don't care about OPEB at all. They're not funding that at all.
Exactly.
Dedham, I think, is the, you know, I don't have the most recent, but we were either the 11th or the 13th highest funded in the state because we've actually cared about it to some extent and put some money in there.
We care about it sporadically.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very welcome. And then you see here, I mentioned it earlier, but the health insurance is a big increase there at 9.3%, which is over $1.2 million.
And there's nothing that can we do about that this
We're
year?
part of a consortium. It's with West Suburban Health Group. And that's a number of towns. I think it's 9 towns that are part of that. And they negotiate a group rate. And it's largely based on our experience and then market conditions. And so they just in fact voted this rate, so we know that it's going to be at 9.3.
Okay.
But that is composite, so it is, there's a chance that if a lot of our folks choose cheaper plans, it could be
Right.
slightly less than that, but that's the best estimate.
Do you see GIC as an open question as we get down the road, or do you think that ship has sailed?
I think it's something we'll have to talk about with, but we have a combined group, a representative of the PEC. It represents all the unions that meets and negotiates with the town on that. So we don't negotiate with each union, we negotiate with that. I think it's something we have to explore in the future. I know that several other towns are doing that currently. It seems to, you know, make sense that there may be other options out there, but change like that is.
Well, I remember when we went to the MMA, sorry, did I just cut you off?
I didn't know what Kevin's question was, so.
The GIC.
GIC.
Group
insurance.
The option of going with the statewide plan that insures.
Yeah, no, I just remember
250,000 people.
when we went to the MMA seminar a couple of years ago, I think it was the town of Arlington had recently moved over, and don't quote me on this, but I think the savings was about $3 million.
Their savings was?
Yes, it was.
Well, they have unbelievable purchasing.
Well, that's the whole thing. They represent so many, every state retiree. Teachers union, I think they also, the retired teachers' healthcare goes through GIC. So their purchasing power and their negotiation powers are phenomenal.
And the bigger the pool, the better you're
Right.
getting typically. because
And when you have the
it's
plan that each state legislators give themselves, you
Yes.
can be pretty sure you're not
I
gonna
have been
get
on it, it's
screwed
better than
too
any
bad.
nonprofit plan that I've ever been on. But is there real resistance to it, the unions are
I don't think that
resistant
there's
to
real
it?
resistance to it. I think, we haven't had a conversation with the unions about it, to be honest with you. Anecdotally, I've heard that in the past there was some resistance to it, just because it does change some of your options. And nobody likes a lot of change when it comes to, you know, healthcare and things like that. But I think if we, you know, speaking to union members and the unions themselves, they don't like the 9.3%
No.
increase either. So if we could show that there would be a shared savings between them and the towns, and it was, again, like you said, similar benefits, I don't see why anymore.
Like Liz's question about the pay-as-you-throw or something she asked her earlier, like what is the ramp-up time to get there? Like, are we stuck in what we are for a certain amount of time, or like the education, research on it? Like, what year could we consider changing something like that?
I think that, let me get back to you on that. I think that there are some big changes happening with the West Suburban, and that we may be as a group looking in the near future, or all the towns, just because of some of the rumblings I've heard out of there. So I think, you know, I would expect in the next year or so, we'll start having those conversations.
Because we would be very appealing, I think, to the GIC because of the 80-20 split that the town employees have, where they, you know, 80% comes from that's the
Well,
town.
new people all have 75-25.
Dedham?
No, oh, I thought you meant the state.
No, the state, yeah. As a matter of fact, isn't it changed too? It's,
Yeah, 80-20 for old people, I guess.
yeah. Well, I'm out of there, so it doesn't make any difference, but
All the youngsters under 65.
mine was less than 80-20, you know, but let's get out of anecdotal. Michael P.?
I think Dave just
Stop
answered.
playing the
My
guitar.
question was, what percentage of the healthcare does the town pay?
80/20, with the exception of a handful of contractual employees where it's 75.
Parks and Rec.
And
No,
going
no,
to
no.
GIC doesn't change that
The
automatically.
union employees are all 80/20.
No, but that's,
All the unions are
Oh,
80/20.
okay.
The only ones that are 75/25 are the people who have individual contracts.
oh,
That's a good deal.
but that would be part of negotiations at some point, I would think. All right. Anybody else have any questions? 4:30, not bad.
We take the rest of the day off with pay?
Yes, yes, yes.
Double.
Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it.
We will meet
All
next,
our volunteers, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
what's that?
Thank you, Brady. Thank you, Nancy.
Volunteers.
Yeah, thanks.
I bent over when I first stand up.
We are back here.
Thank you, Doreen.
Doreen, yes.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have to adjourn this meeting?
Is there a motion? Kevin, don't leave. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you all very much.